It would be the black bed guy today. Well, weeks out for the ones at the courthouse. And
That's a,
spring.
yeah, they're
Both spring.
yeah.
So Jake, you're thinking you were gonna ask that Rob do the executive at 10:45?
I think.
Anytime after 10:45. I didn't know he had an open session first. So as long as it's after that, because I've got Representative Corey from 10:30 to 10:45, and then I'll stay in and we can go from there.
Okay, we should be good, but I will make sure he's aware of that.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the coffee, the Red Bull, coffee and Red Bull. Double caffeine. I had to cut out the alcohol, so that's double the caffeine. You should give us that already. You need to learn. Whenever you're ready, Jordan.
Okay, nothing on your agenda today. That's a rarity for
That
us.
is a rarity. It is a rarity.
But on the construction side, we're finishing up Old Mountain Road, which is good. Contractors finishing up processing their crushed rock surfacing. They're installing the signs and hydro seeding this week and building fences. So they're very close to being done. Jeff and Bob go out to do their punch list tomorrow, and it's wrapping up.
Fences, did they have to take down people's fences to do their work or something? And now they've put them back
Yeah, yeah. Yep. Let's see, nothing new on our signs and guideposts, the federally funded project. Still waiting on materials for that. Everybody's held up. So our West Darling, we talked about that last week. It's held up for signs, but we're just leaving the old signs up until we get new ones. And then they'll go up. Roosevelt Grade Road, the paving, they said they're gonna start Friday, but we think that's really, they weren't looking at the calendar. It really should be Monday, because they don't really like firing up the asphalt plant for one day. So it'll be next week is our guess. So that's pre-level, that will go down, and then the wearing course will follow. On the design side, Courtney Road, just about ready to advertise that one here in another few weeks after we complete our final review and walk through the project. Klickitat path, they're working on that one with WashDOT and Parks to try and get our permits we need, and then agreements as well. So the design's pretty straightforward.
How much of the Courtney Road do you think is actually gonna be the engineer's estimate for that thing?
Do we think we're gonna be close, or?
No, I'm saying, what do you figure the engineer's estimate when you go out to bid is gonna be?
I think we're about 7.2 combined.
Yeah. So we haven't paid any part of that already? We're still looking at a full 7.2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
somewhere around that.
yeah. It's probably between 6, 5.
That's what I would say, between 6 and 7.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if any of that has already been spent in your initial.
no, not in the design process. We saved the big dollar grants for construction. Okay. Courthouse parking lots, since it's getting kind of dark here in the morning and less light at night when people leave, we're gonna place we have temporary lights, not temporary, but permanent lights will go in on the jail on the west side. And that'll help light up that lot to the west of us, at least partially, until we redo the lot and get more luminaires in there. And right now we'll probably have a couple of weeks left where we don't have any lights out front. And so that in a couple of weeks, the contractor will come back and reinstall the conduit that they've torn up that connect all of our lights. So, but that's kind of the process right now. They're trying to get their concrete and in so they can pave it before too long. They're still dealing with the 2 fuel tanks that they found out there. And, we're still our best guesstimate at this point is a, $50,000 range to clean it up by the time we remove the tanks, pay the fees. DOE has fees and permits. And then we'll have some contaminated soil, and hopefully it won't rain too much, which doesn't help the process.
So does DOE, does everybody have a kind of an expedited process for this
Yes.
circumstance? Because we can't just shut the whole project down while we're waiting to get permits to get it dealt with.
Yeah, Thursday, they were thinking they were gonna get here today, but Thursday's the day they're gonna come pump the tanks and start that process.
Is it
So-
fuel or is it oil?
It's fuel oil,
Heating.
yeah, heating oil, yeah. But it's
And
mostly
water.
water, yeah. Yeah,
Mostly
it's-
water.
Yeah, mostly water now. So,
So just a couple presents from the past.
yes, yeah,
So you thought you were gonna find presents over there.
I know, so that's good, and it wasn't, so that's
Yeah.
one way of looking at it.
yeah,
I
this
guess.
is a much
Presents,
smaller
okay.
area. The over there, it was half the lot. As you go down, if you dug deep enough, there'd still be fuel that you'd have to chase, which is, down as far as 20 feet. Here, we're close to the street, so it ends at the street, our digging, no matter what. But hopefully it's contained and it doesn't go that far.
It's just a weird place to put that.
Yeah, the guy that did the research is the tester and came over. He said there used to be 2, he did research and there used to be 2 like garage type structures, which would have been behind the old courthouse. So they're old, and there were pieces of metal roofing that were still buried and some timber and that nail I brought last week. That was all in that general area where the tanks are. So,
So those tanks predate this courthouse?
yes,
Wow.
yeah.
So they do go back to the old, so those really are a present from the
Yes.
past.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Wow.
Actually, in surprisingly good shape, too.
Yeah, that's when I looked at them last, when they were exposed, I thought they were more modern, not modern in that sense, but modern, set to this building, which I did think, well, that's odd that you would have those, that you
Tanks
put
that
those
close, right.
that close to the courthouse.
Yeah,
In the parking lot,
Uh-huh.
where, unless they didn't have a parking lot, which that's why, is there wasn't at that
No.
point when the courthouse was at the other end.
yeah,
Huh, interesting.
it is
So
interesting.
they're not, I guess technically they're historical
Artifacts.
artifacts. So is that oil? Yeah. I don't know, you gotta keep those.
Yeah.
Put a glass ceiling over it so people, ooh, look at that.
Yeah, so I think the contractor's trying to, come up with contingency plans, because I'm like, we need to get the front parking lot paved.
Right.
Well, will there be a portion on the first, we only pave 1 lift? So I think we're just wrestling with those kinds of things, because the asphalt plants here don't stay open forever, so.
Right.
This
gotta
is
get it
really
done.
now a critical
What I mean,
piece to get
just
done.
Get it fixed and
Yeah.
get it done.
So a new challenge is just like the flooring that
Yeah.
was no good, so we're working through the issues and we'll get there. All right, maintenance side. The guys, it's brushing season, so we're doing a lot of brushing. We have moisture now, so we're doing a lot of grading as well, and Bob's crew from Goldendale East, we're patching still. So the guys are keeping busy. On the building side, you can see we're working on the contractors pouring curbing out front. And they have the sidewalk on the west side of the new building prep to pour. And they're trying to prep that whole parking lot for paving as well at the end of the month. So both of those parking lots need to be finished. The flooring, still waiting for the new floor tiles. Furniture, most all of the office and cubicle furniture was delivered last week. There'll be other deliveries this week and next week as they proceed forward. By the end of the week, they'll have the 3rd floor furniture set up, and then they'll move down to the 2nd, which they have some of the furniture items partially assembled. So I don't really understand their process, but they're, it's kind of, we're doing some stuff here. We're doing all of these one pieces of furniture on all 3 floors. And then now we've dropped back and are completing everything on the 3rd floor. So they have a process and they'll get done.
Is it the furniture people assembling these things?
Yes, yeah, yep.
What about the lobby furniture?
So-
See, it says they
yeah.
were unwilling to.
Right,
Yes,
so are we just not gonna get any, or is there an option to get it from somewhere else and cancel that part of these people's contract?
I think the furniture we ordered it's a silicone product basically for the upholstery. And I think if we looked around, we might be able to find something, but I'm not sure at this point that anybody else is going to be better for making furniture. It just, like I said, we had to delay or drop and come up with a different product for the guest chairs in the offices because they got delayed. So I think the country is struggling to deliver products, period.
Right.
So when it says lobby, that's not just the main lobby, it's all any lobbies in the building?
Yeah, so we
So
have,
like the
we have
public
some
lobby
chairs in
spaces?
different locations in the building, public spaces, and those are all delayed.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
Most,
didn't understand that. I thought we were just talking about the front lobby when you came in the door.
That's what I thought.
Who cares, one way or the other, but
We're gonna have to have some kind of seating in hallways for old people elderly people that have a long walk down, the seniors.
yeah, I mean,
I don't care if it's a chair like this, we're gonna have to have something. on.
sure. Yeah, we have extra chairs that we can put out there. So we'll have a bunch of stackable chairs in the conference room, the big conference room. I think we'll have 40 extra chairs. That's plenty to have a few chairs.
spread them around and that's.
Yeah, and then all of our, each one of the offices themselves has kind of an entry with a couple chairs. With the exception of,
Until those chairs come in, can we just use the chairs that are sitting behind you guys?
Yeah. we can do it.
we'll have plenty of chairs to kind of help out for that temporarily.
Right.
Yeah, but the furniture people, we talked to them about it, they're like, well, we have no contingency money, and it's like, well, that's still our money, any contingency money, it's still ours, we don't want to pay, that's kind of the idea.
Right, that's the idea, is
So,
that
but
you
they-
were unable to deliver within the contract deadline.
Right.
There should be some downside to you for that. It seems like it's only us that has the downside.
Yes,
Like, we'll go rent you some stuff that you pay for.
You should have had that contract. Lesson learned.
we'll get by until,
Yeah, I think we
Next
can
week.
get by until
Yeah,
next March
yeah.
is fine. It's just, we've got furniture.
Plenty of chairs.
yeah.
Plenty of chairs.
I think we've done really well. We really haven't had too many delays that have held anything up on the building, and we've procured a lot of other furniture that we've bought for the different spaces. It was just more economical and better for us to purchase, and we're getting all those things delivered in a timely way. So we'll have almost everything complete by the time we move in, which is really pretty great considering the condition of the climate of the
I
world
didn't
right
think there was
now.
any chance this building would be done in November. I figured everything would be backdated because of supply issues, so I'm impressed.
Yeah, and we've done well. So the interior door frames and windows, the frames are, I think, almost 100% up. And the glass people are fabricating the glass panels to go in those, and they should start arriving next week. Electrical systems still turning on and testing equipment. The mechanical guys, the boilers got fired up yesterday, and they were running today, and all the heating units inside
Do we have heat in the building?
we got heat in the building, yeah. And the chiller, I think, is next. They circulated water last week through the chiller and the system, and everything seems to be operating as it should. With the exception of the elevator, we still don't have their L&I approval, but the elevators, all the repairs have been made to it. It's just they didn't follow through on their end, getting their L&I paperwork submitted. So that's on them, and they've been.
So we're not paying the $3,000 a day on the elevator?
Nope, they are. The elevator fabricator and constructor, they're doing it. I don't think they like paying that, but
The
that's.
licensed operator.
Yeah.
That's a. Yeah, is it really that much that they're unsuspicious that?
If they're charging you, that's how much it is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I
Their
bet
cost
they're, I
is
bet they
paying
have
it.
a licensed operator on staff that is not getting paid $3,000
Which would have
a
been the
day.
same guy
Probably
that would
not.
have been charging us $3,000.
$3,000, I'm sure they're not.
Yeah.
No.
So I boo-hoo, because if they really were charging,
They would get it.
they would get it done.
Yeah.
They
Quick.
would,
Yeah.
they would send a jet up to L&I to pick up who needs whoever it
Yes,
is.
fly 'em out here.
And fly them out here to get it done.
Yep.
You got $3,000 a day. Yeesh. Otherwise, that's, I know my next career. I'm gonna be a licensed elevator operator.
All right, the move, we had two meetings, one last Friday and one yesterday, to talk about moving and trying to get everybody a date and boxes and tape and all those kinds of things so that they can start packing, because it's, I think once you start looking at all the things you really have, there's a lot of stuff for us to move.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing with furniture isn't gonna be one of those, or mostly. We don't need to move furniture, but
So
there's still
as
a lot
they-
of stuff.
If they fill a box, are they just stacking it in their own department for now, or are you guys hauling it over there and stashing it for now?
We can't really put anything in there yet while they're still putting.
So they're stacking their
together.
boxes in their own departments?
Yes,
I suspect that's what I've seen when because I was like, wow, you're ready. Like I was over in planning, that was like a couple of weeks ago. And it's like, you guys look like you're ready, like right now.
some
So
offices
organized,
have-
some offices.
Yes.
Okay, I was in Mochi's office and I think she could have moved 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So looks like,
yeah, others are, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's a challenge.
Yeah.
So I think everybody kind of felt the urgency of getting started. once
oh,
they
we're
have
on
a
the
date.
15th.
Yes, so it's a week you guys are
Okay.
gone.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I need nothing.
Yeah,
You just chuck everything in your.
Just
office.
put a thing in the shred bin and call it good.
See, my office is right here and I'm pretty sure it'll fit a box.
Yeah.
Actually, I got a bookshelf.
I don't think they're, yeah, I will, I'll look, I'll try to look today or before the end of the week and just see if there's, but most, yeah.
yeah, so the thing about the new benches, we're gonna be taking your drawers, each of you have a set of drawers, 2 of them match, and that one over there doesn't. So we'll probably end up having to fabricate another one, and we'll probably replace the fronts, which I think are white oak, and we'll replace them with some of the extra wood that matches what's over there.
Well, this one's just
So,
a 2-drawer
drawer.
file cabinet that can,
Yeah, yours it doesn't match, so we'll build one that looks like the other 2 here to match. We will build that in our shop.
Oh, so we're taking these with us?
Those 2.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's good. They're good. They're,
Yeah. Yeah,
This one-
the pencil
This one's
drawer, I
had
don't-
nothing put in it since I've been here.
Oh,
this one's about the same.
I mean, it literally is, they're empty file holders and they've been that way.
It's the only thing in this drawer.
well, you don't need them.
Oh. Yeah, we never used, the only thing I use is the little,
I use this one.
Yeah.
And I guess I would still like a regular size file folder, something. here.
So the drawer, you'd prefer one of these?
I don't care. either.
And
I
so
don't- I'm fine
maybe-
with that.
you can have it, I don't care.
Yeah, so
whatever.
we'll put 2, we'll just move these 2, put new drawer faces on them and be done with it. We have to fabricate
I wonder
another
who
one at
actually
some point, we
reviews
can.
these. Whose handwriting is that?
Probably Lane Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've been a few years.
Whatever. Like I said, I'd be fine with a little 2-drawer filing cabinet that don't match. I don't care. Nobody can see it but me.
Okay, no pencil drawers? Yeah,
No
those
place to hide the
small-
pens.
I just got a cup on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually, the only one I use is this little side.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
And I
pencil
figure when I,
drawer would be-
if it's full of paper, it's
Okay.
time to clean it out.
Yeah.
Is it gonna have this little lip on it, on our
Yeah.
desk too?
There's actually about a 6-inch top, flat top. Yeah,
Oh, a pencil drawer would be good.
okay,
But I don't need all the file drawers.
okay.
We don't use them.
We may or may not get those done by the time we move over there, but we'll put them in.
I can say
Good place
these,
for that.
other than they don't match anything, they're,
What's in there? I used to look in there for a bunch of money, but they're,
Never is.
we used to say we kept horse heads on one side and cash in the other,
It's
so.
pretty nice, so.
Both are empty.
Yeah, both are empty.
Go figure.
All right, so, Annex 5, we probably should talk about that. So the Fair Board, they were going to receive the building up at the fairgrounds, and we were going to use it for them. When we originally started talking about it, we were kind of wrestling with, well, do we put it at the gun range? And the Fair Board had talked about a space, a better space than where they're currently at. But I think, I guess our second option is still at the fairgrounds. It has to be moved so we can build the parking next spring. Has to go somewhere. We have a contract that we awarded for a foundation somewhere for the building. And so
So if we decide to bulldoze the building, we're still paying the contract for the foundation?
we're somewhere, we don't have we're not, I don't know if we have the contract
Signed.
signed. So yes, there'll be some cost. Yeah, potentially.
Because the Fair Board presented a $200,000 estimate to move that thing from here to there.
That's a total cost to, because you have to.
You gotta do the groundwork and everything.
Yeah, you have a foundation to build. You've got to bring utilities in. You have to reconnect all the HVAC system.
So
You have to
even if
build
we
put a new
move
roof
that
on.
to the gun range,
It's less. Because you have a pad already built there, a parking lot. You're not bringing in all the utilities at first.
Because you don't have water.
You don't have water, you don't have sewer. It's right.
You need power. That's what you're going to put there, and a propane tank.
Yeah,
So you're,
so right now our choices are gun range at whatever those costs, or bulldozer,
Or
yeah,
surplus.
or surplus.
You could surplus it as, and have somebody come take it.
true.
But I guess for me to move it to the gun range, I gotta have a dollar number.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get you a
Anywhere
dollar.
near that 200 number, I surplus it.
Yeah.
Or turn it into the new WSU extension or something.
Well, it has to be moved from that lot.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got to go.
Because we need to, because the.
Gotta have that parking.
Is there any way to renegotiate the parking with the city based on the costs? And we could buy, I mean, I'm just thinking like behind the courthouse, there's more houses back there. You could probably bulldoze and build a parking lot for less than it costs to move that building.
Well, yeah, but you could surplus the building
You
and
gotta
get it
build
moved.
it. You gotta buy
That's
the house.
cheaper.
Yeah, you got to buy the houses, and you have to
Relocate.
relocate the people. It's actually really
Yeah, it's
Really
expensive.
expensive,
Really
that
expensive.
one that.
Yeah.
Vacant ground is okay, but
Relocating's bad.
yeah,
Yeah. So I think we're either paying to move it or surplusing it, which kind of, as we're thinking of that, is the parking that space gonna provide to the public, is that we have to provide that to the public and we can't use that for our county fleet management fleet? It has to be public parking, or?
what's parking? However we choose to use it, it's parking.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can choose to allow public or not allow public.
Because that would be a great place if we were gonna have a fleet for people to pick up their keys and go over and get in their fleet vehicle. I'm just thinking outside the box. Right now, I'm thinking surplus, unless you can get me a real cheap price to move it to the fair or to the gun range.
For commercial space, that ends up to be about $134 a square foot at the higher price that we talked about for the fair board. So that's for commercial square footage in a building, that's cheap.
That's real cheap.
That's dirt cheap. You build something new, you won't get it for that, not even close. I mean, a house costs twice that at least nowadays.
Right, well, and I'm just for the fair board, that's one thing, but if we're looking at some kind of training room at the gun range, I think you can get a fairly open floor plan, single wide, just office space type thing put in cheaper, and we can move that thing.
I don't think so.
No. 'cause you
We're
gotta
not,
still
because
move it.
we're not a homeowner or just somebody that can go hire somebody and not pay prevailing wages.
The
And
government
we have all
prices.
kinds of costs that really jack up.
Really, Jack.
I'm new to the government expense thing, so
Yes.
it's taken me a while to.
And if you do the gun range, like, part of the cost, I'm gonna reevaluate the cost, but talking to the guys at the range, they can bring in volunteers to do the finish work. For the fair board, we were gonna, put it all together, refinish it. They can actually bring volunteers in that'll do the sheet rocking and that kind of thing.
Well, even the foundation was like 45,000 or something up there,
Yes.
which was just
Yes.
insane.
And that won't change regardless of where you put it, because that's to put the foundation in.
But
I know, I
we'll-
saw the, yeah. Like
It's
I
got
guess,
bad.
Give us an estimate for there and we'll decide whether we're there.
I mean, I
That's
looked
what
at that,
we'll
I could, I
I know.
saw those estimates and it's like that, I could, give me a guy and I can get you, I mean,
It's crazy.
Yeah, and our money doesn't go as far as it used to.
Right.
No, by no means.
well, that's what I'm wondering. It is, I mean, it's nice to have the space and that seemed like a really good fix for
Yeah.
everything.
It did.
Until we saw the cost of what, because that was, and I will say that was wildly more than I thought. And I understand things have escalated, and when we're contracting for work, it's a different world than what I can go do something for. But it could be that, the best use of public money is to just surplus it and and I can't imagine that, because we're at the end, even if there's costs associated with it, I can't see that it's not going to net out that we got, even if we get nothing out of it, we're still way ahead of spending a bunch of money to move a building that we kind of want, but not really.
Yeah.
And so there could be a benefit to somebody in the community. Go ahead and,
Better than 1976.
exactly. I mean, I'd pay some money for it to move it if I had some place that I could, that would not me I mean, I would.
Yeah.
Like if I had a vacant lot in Goldendale where
I got
the roof's
20
not gonna be, but it's like, I can guarantee you I could put a foundation together for it for way less than
Than
45,000
$50,000,
or $50,000. You're gonna have, I assume, it was a modular, they'll have to break it back up into its pieces to move it.
Yeah, it's 3 pieces, so.
Yeah. So, and there is gonna be, but I also know I worked in that, not in that industry, it's not, they can take them apart and put them back
Yeah.
together pretty quick as
Yeah.
far as, and it's pretty minimal, they're designed that way to, minimal, sheetrock damage and
Got a
that.
lot of paperweight to it.
Well, that's true, yeah, I put that, if we end up surplusing, it comes with
Yes,
it's as is, which includes,
the move is expensive.
the move is the expensive. It will
Well,
be.
and for us, actually, the move is cheaper than it would be for somebody else, because PUD will lower the lines for us for nothing. Where I don't know that they would do that for.
Do you
private.
think though that that's even, because it should have been designed where that's unnecessary?
It was to come in from TLC to here.
Right.
But so we could get it out that way cheaper.
Well, right, and
Oh,
once
yeah.
you're out there, you
It's
should
good,
be good.
yeah.
But it
So,
doesn't.
If it's worse going, well, that's another strike
Yeah.
against the fairgrounds.
Yes,
as far
'cause
as-
it's a lot
Unless you can
cost.
get to the fairgrounds via some other route.
Right.
Because that is part of what I would do when I worked for
Mhm.
like, we would go scout the routes
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
our
Yes.
pole to make sure, we didn't generally move. We had a company that moved them, but it was that same thing of
Yes,
getting the permits if we needed to, if there was. And sometimes you could almost always find a route that you didn't have an issue.
Long way around is cheaper sometimes.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
you didn't have to try to lift things up or move things. And we had a couple sketchy one here in Goldendale,
yes.
getting out to,
Going to the fairgrounds will be tough.
yeah.
You're
So that's another, again, it's, and.
You
and
can go to the
surplus-
highway quicker.
Right, get out to the main road and go
You're
wherever.
good.
Then you're good.
So we'll bring back an estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll have a further discussion. We just wanted to kind of bring it up because something has to happen with it.
And I
Right.
don't want to miss, Commissioner Anderson, any comments or thoughts on that?
No, I have none. I'm moving into a meeting with Representative Corey. Good luck, gentlemen. I'd like to see the cost on getting it down to the gun range, though.
Okay,
Okay, thanks.
I'm gonna skip to the end
Yeah,
because I
sorry.
want to, there's a few things I want to just cover. So one is, the most important thing is to set up a workshop, maybe to talk about 6-year, because we still have to schedule hearings.
Yeah.
And that'll be another, 3 weeks out, once we finally decide what we're gonna do. And so want to make sure we get that on the schedule.
Yeah, because that's.
So we can schedule those, because we'll need to finish that before the county's plan, 6-year plan,
Yes.
can be finalized, because it's a component of it.
Right.
So I don't know if there's a Thursday or a time where you wanted to tackle that.
I'll look to my seatmates, but I think, we didn't have a scheduled one on the 21st of this month, which we have now to begin kind of the board's discussion as far as what we're thinking about. That seems like the optimal time, because
Okay.
they're definitely connected to each other, depending
Yes.
on what we end up doing, what the board ends up doing on that. So it seems like, and I know we don't have the whole day booked already, so we better not.
We don't. We do
Good,
have a board of
because-
health at 10. And I'll schedule that for the 21st.
Yeah, so get in before the Board of Health.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, if you can.
Oh, nice.
Or
Yeah,
allow
good
sort
idea.
of a window, a cooling off period, shall we say.
Board of Health before, please.
Yeah.
Cooling off by two
Just
couple.
trying to help you out, Smith.
Yeah, you don't want to be right after that, probably
No.
not.
All right, Oregon Trail Rally, the national race is scheduled for November, so they did the small race back in the spring with the plan to have the national race the 5th and 6th of November. So that's coming up, just wanted to give you a heads up. And then the U.S. Forest or Fish and Wildlife Service has asked to do a controlled burn in Glenwood on some of their property that is
On the
close to
refuge.
Lakeside Road, on the refuge property. And so anyway, they want to do that in October, November, just giving you a heads up that at some point we're working with them to, because Lakeside Road will have to be shut down for a short period of time when they do that. So this is similar to the ones that the Forest Service has done along Courtney Road and Major Creek Road.
Yeah,
So
did this last week.
same
Yes.
thing. And then one event, high school homecoming for Goldendale is being planned for the 23rd of this month at the livestock barn. Because it's considered an outdoor space.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's it.
Okay, any questions, comments? Nope. Nope.
All right, thank you.
Oh, no, I'm ready to go.
No.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
Jan, you wanna,
Oh, I'm up first.
you're up first, yeah, because you're gonna end an executive session, so.
Right.
Are you ready, or you want me to,
No.
want me to stall?
Stall.
Stretch.
So another week.
Another week.
Yeah, that would be a pretty big stretch. but-
Thank you. You're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. We're kind of quiet today.
Good morning. Yes, good morning. Good morning.
So to start off with, American Rescue Dollars and any updates there. Treasury has made some updates to how we report the use of those dollars. They have extended it. The first expenditure report was supposed to be due at the end of this month, but they have listened to counties and adjusted that to be the end of January 2022. So from award date to the end of 2021, we will report whatever expenditures, projects, and plans that we had happen at the end of January in 2022. So a little relief for me anyway there. The packet that I handed you is my quarterly financial update to hopefully highlight some misinterpretations of where the county is financially. The first two reports are the state auditor's website reports that shows that the state auditor has our cash balance sufficiency in good standing, meaning that the number of days that we have for cash sustainability is at the end of 2020, 322 days. They have a benchmark of 60 days. So I think we far exceed that.
Is there a standard above good?
I think excellent.
Well, I'm curious, it's like, what makes that?
I think there might be an
I
excellent.
mean, if your standard is 60 and you're, then we're just, well, that's good.
Phenomenal.
It's called the
Yeah,
Klickitat.
phenomenal.
The Klickitat.
I believe
Okay, the
excellent.
Klickitat standard.
There is a, a
What's under
cautionary
good?
and then for situations.
Or, and what's fair,
Cautionary,
cautionary.
good, then,
We don't want to be any of those.
no.
No.
So the first one is all of our funds. The second one is our general fund.
Okay.
To stay consistent for the quarterly reports, I tried to stay consistent with the state auditor's annual report. So you'll see that the first page is all of our funds combined together. The first section would be the treasurer reports. The treasurer reports on monthly what the cash balance is. Although this is the all funds, the cash balance reports only reflect 100, 200 to 500 funds. It does not reflect the general fund because I don't actually have those cash balances. He's working on it right now. They're not, the general fund wasn't one that got posted prior to me. So talked with Greg and he's gonna get those numbers for me for in the future. But so the top part is the cash. The second part is gonna be the budgeted fund balances and the use of fund balance. The next section is gonna be the revenues, then the expenditures, and then the other increases in fund resources. A lot of that's and other decreases. That section is what Brenda and Teresa have to really work through at the end of the year in period 13s. Anything else you'd like to add to that section? Okay.
Thank you.
As you go through these reports, you'll see some ups and downs, some variances and whatnot. We've talked about them before. Deborah is got her feet wet. She is diving into Kayenta and she's doing some cleanup work in there. Additionally, the finance team is working together on figuring out, we think that there is an issue with the budget JVs and the transfers that maybe didn't complete 100%. So the finance team is working together to try and work through that along with the Kayenta team. So that page 2 is the general fund. You'll see the note on there that I put that the American Rescue Plan lost revenue dollars was board approved to transfer into the general fund. That'll happen on the third supplemental. And then the next page would be the general fund. I guess it was part of the fund book before me. Chairman had asked that I incorporate cumulative reserve dollars in addition to the landfill dollars, how that broke out. I have not been able for the general fund, had the time to be able to go back the 10 years to try and find those cumulative reserve dollars. I'm sure that they're there. And then Commissioner Anderson had asked that I also include if there was any funds that received any general purpose dollars, that I include that. So I'm working on adding those features into this report. Then the chart, and you'll go through and the 100 funds and the general fund, you will see the same effect, 2019 to 2021, and the slope going downward. Oh, turn it over. Yeah, it looks much better if you turn it upside down. Overall, I think these reports show that as a county as a whole, you know, cash wise, we are fine. There are some accounting things that we need to button up, and that we do need to address budget sustainability as well as some allocations, because although the county is fine as a whole, the general fund needs to be sustainable as well, and some allocations to other funds probably need to be looked at. Additionally, I would like to be able to bring these reports to you guys on a quarterly basis. In being able to do that, I would like to have a set day of the month following the quarter end, because I'm not able to actually get these numbers due to the accrual processes that we account for our financials until after payroll is ran at the following month, beginning of the following month. So for instance, I was not able to get these reports until after payroll was done on the 8th, which was Friday, and then throw them together. And because of the accrual process, I have to run each quarter over again. So I have to do the work from start to finish all over again. So I would like to propose that I do these quarterly towards the end of the following month of quarter end. If you're okay with that.
I mean, there's no need to link them to the department update. We can just schedule these and have time to discuss it.
No, in fact, I would, yeah, the timing of it needs to be where those, when the data is available,
The
and put the
landfill and all
report
the
together,
different pieces, yeah.
rather than just our set, you know, so ever so many weeks. If they don't line up right, don't worry about it.
And if I allow myself some more time, I would be able to not only compile the reports, but maybe dive into some things that pop out, do a little bit more analysis as to why things are certain ways, or returning certain way.
Any questions?
Oh, once I have an hour to.
Yeah, there's a lot
I'll
of.
be here all day.
Okay,
My questions will come later.
yeah,
There's a lot of numbers to download.
Good stuff, though. Jen's doing a good job of putting all this information in an understandable format. I think the next one is a budget process update, and Mr. Chair, you mentioned briefly that during the finance committee, the members are all here. We kind of suggested, Chair, that we consider the 21st as kind of the schedule, the day to bring, you know, presentations will have been done at that point, and see where we're at, where we need to go, and look at revenue and expenses, and now the 6-year plan as well. So if that works for everybody, I think
Yeah.
that's.
I think so. I think that's what we had
Okay.
discussed, that we'll bring our ideas, and we'll, you know, let's get to it. We got some work to do. Sooner started, that doesn't, you know, because we have that hard date, you know, we have to be done by December 31st. I would prefer us to be done. My goal is that we're done well before that, particularly if we end up with any significant changes, which I suspect we may well do. It gives folks time to adapt and be able to implement that, not, you know, Merry Christmas. And by the way, when folks come back in January, you need to, some of you aren't here anymore. And I'm not suggesting that, we have done that in the past. Back in 20, if you look at your thing where the balances were really low, the last time that's what happened. Is we adopted the budget and literally people had like a week's notice, and that was, I'm not gonna do that. So,
Okay, I didn't bring my schedule for Thursday, but I think we're a pretty full day this Thursday, or we back to a half.
I think it's only morning, isn't it?
yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
only morning.
Morning.
well, yeah. I think it's only morning.
All right.
It
Anything
just
else
seems
for-
like a full day.
Yeah. Anything else for Jan?
Not right now.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. Casey, you want to?
Good morning.
Yes. Yes,
We have a visitor.
Sharon here to join us. We do have a few things regarding senior services. I know she had spoke to you previously regarding a volunteer coordinator position. It would be a grant funded position. She did receive the grant for it. And it goes through 2023. And so, as far as wages are concerned for this position, she was estimating that we could do 41,000 to 50,000 depending on experience. And this position aligns with the volunteer coordinator position within the juvenile department. And so we're looking at putting this position at the same grade and adding it to the org chart as a grant funded position that will be reevaluated every time the grant is due, and then go from there. So as far as the job description, we've got that drafted, and then the org chart we will work on and submit that for approval if you guys are okay with moving forward with adding that to her org chart.
Questions? I just want to be sure. So this came out of the dollars, the increased dollars that came out of ADSWA.
So that was that special grant application.
Right.
That you had given me permission to apply
This is a 2-year thing,
for
right?
this program. So
Right.
it fully funds basically that program, and the caveat with you all was that the position be clearly told that it is grant funded, and if we're unable to secure
Additional.
additional grants to
future.
carry on, that it would end at the end of 2023. And so, you
So
know,
it's
the
on
hope
the org
is,
chart in pencil.
Yes, yeah,
Right.
yeah, and the box would say grant funded, and so it would just be reevaluated at that time.
and that would be made clear in the advertisement as well as the hiring.
Okay, yeah, I'm good. You said good. Jay, I don't know if Commissioner Anderson is with us or somewhere. He's with us, but on Zoom, but he's in another meeting.
He looked over, but
Okay,
Okay,
so
Okay.
yeah,
so we'll move
2 out
forward
of 3
with-
is good enough.
Okay, we'll
rubbed his
move
cheek,
forward
that's a
with.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we wanted to discuss is the in-home aid program is coming to an end at the end of the year. It is going to affect 6 employees. 4 of them are full-time in-home aides, 2 of them are casual. And as far as
So what I wanted, I had talked to, you know, Rob and Casey briefly before about, you know, my concern for terminating people that, you know, ending layoff, I guess would be the term. For that program, we've had, so with the full timers, we have one that's been with us 13 years, another 10 years, and 2 others 7 years. So the issue with, you know, one of the main issues for them is going to be that they're losing their health insurance benefits. And even though we're working with them to establish new employment in, you know, a program that's like an IP, it will take 90 days before they're going to be eligible for health insurance with their new employer. And so I wanted to talk about whether there was the opportunity to provide, I guess, a severance package for the full timers that are losing their benefits in order to provide enough for them to get coverage for that kind of downtime in between with their new position that they would be starting and being eligible for insurance, because they're definitely not in a wage bracket that they have the ability to have set aside money, to be able to recoup that. So I know some of the concerns related to, well, what if there's other, layoffs in the county? How can we really provide something for everybody? One of the things I want to point out, this program isn't ending voluntarily based on, the caregivers' parts. They're perfectly content to continue working if that was, their choice. They're ending because this program is ending with the budget. And then in terms of looking where funds may be available for that, as we did receive in the early part of, so for January through March, we specifically received some pandemic response extra hourly pay for our state paid clients that was to be applied to wages and benefits for the caregiver positions. Well, because we typically are subsidizing the benefits, annually, we're not getting enough in that unit rate to cover, and usually it's been about a $30,000 subsidy. We haven't done anything with the caregivers pay specifically for those 3 months, but we did receive an extra $4 an hour of reimbursement from the state for the state paid clients. And so that, in terms of having resources within my existing budget, to potentially look at that kind of, I guess, whether we look at it as a payout, like the severance, using some of that COVID hazard pay. So it's not like something that I would necessarily I would need to request a supplemental for, because I should have existing funding within there based on to the additional revenue we're getting from the state.
So would the preferred, what you're asking would be some sort of severance in lieu, or that they could use to cover their 90 days?
Yeah.
As an alternative, and I'm just brainstorming, is rather than cash, it ends up, it's the same, but we have in the past before provided healthcare past the date as severance. I'm just wondering if that's cleaner.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure. I know the issue with Cobra is, it is probably running about $800 a person a month.
Yes, yeah. And the thing with like continuing, we could continue coverage if the employees go on a leave without pay status. But their positions are truly ending at the end of December. So
I am,
so it would be like
it would
3
be
months of
cash.
COBRA pay on that would be the easiest, because if we were to say we wanted to continue their coverage for 3 months, they have to be on a paid status at least 1 day a month, and that wouldn't be possible. And so to keep them under the group plan, we wouldn't really be able to offer that.
So I guess in terms of dollars that, if you're looking at, because it's the 4 full-timers, if you're looking at $800, so $800 a month for 3 months is $2,400. You're looking at 4 people for that, that's $9,600. So that's $10,000. And when I was looking at, I can look at the specific dollar, the hourly rates for the January, February, March, where we got the $4 per hour extra for COVID funding. Whether, that would offset that $9,600, so it's not like obviously, I mean, it was being applied normally to, you know, kind of the benefit package, which in the year, because the report I do that looks at the unit, because there's a certain amount, like $3.47 per hour that's applied to, that we have to apply to health insurance benefits, but we look at a different, like a July, June year. And in that, this past July, June one from 2020, you know, we had already subsidized about $25,000. So, which has always been, I mean, it had been more like 47 in the previous one. So, so that's why we didn't say, okay, well, we didn't pay a higher rate or apply that for the caregivers doing those January, February, March, because it is up to us to decide that just goes towards their benefits. But in terms of what I would have budgeted and in there that so it wouldn't be something in terms of the county having to provide additional sources for, it would be
What are you using those funds now for?
really within the existing budget. Well, basically, it would just, those funds that came in, they're just coming in as revenue in the home care
Right.
program. And out, so it would, at the end of the year, may end up being an offset in terms of, like I said, from previous years, there's a bit of a less of a difference in terms of what we paid out in health insurance.
So it would have just been that we
would have,
currently, we had less of a deficit than we had planned on for benefits. Because what we're getting reimbursed for benefits never, I mean, we've always
never
had
covers, right?
Right,
So
so
that's
it's,
part-
it's
that's
in
part
the
of what it
budget,
is.
but it's still kind of money that would have went elsewhere.
And I think.
It would have ended up being kind of carried over in fund balance
Right.
if at the end of the year, if that
And I
was.
think my main concern is not that I'm opposed to it, I'm still rolling it through my brain, is setting a precedent
Right.
for any future issues.
Well, and that's
my
where
hard part right now.
I guess I'm, in terms of justifying paying out the caregivers in that, is that part of that pandemic response funding was because these are direct care workforce that were working and last year worked directly with clients in their homes during the pandemic in a high-risk situation prior to even vaccinations being available. And that's basically the intent of those sources. So addressing the fact that they're unique positions and that they did work through a lot of situations where other people weren't working and providing essential services to older and disabled people in their home.
Which is not much different than what's been requested in collective bargaining that we've said no to.
Right, and that's kind of my precedent worry.
To use those funds.
I mean, I guess in a way, I also kind of look at it that you have 3 months notice. So you have 3 months to find something and be ready to switch over on January 1st. Granted, you're gonna have a waiting time there, so.
Yeah, and then
It's one of those for me that I really want to, but I just know it's gonna backfire on me, so I'm still moving.
and it's not that they're not transitioning to other employment, it's that they're not eligible for benefits with a new employer. And we're talking people that have been 7 and 10 years and they're basically losing, sick banks and
Right.
other leave time that they have to start all over with that at any new
Yeah.
employer.
I'm just looking at it that you're at a 2,400 times 4, and I'm looking at it that it could be a 2,400 times 100. Worst case scenario.
Because you're talking about layoffs related to COVID required vaccines.
Yeah, who knows? And they're all gonna want it if one of them gets it. And then the unions are all gonna want it, and it's just gonna steamroll. So that's.
And I guess I would argue that this is a different
I agree.
scenario in that they're
It will stop.
not
But they're not
opting
choosing,
to be.
they're not choosing,
Yeah.
they're this was
They
not
didn't-
self-directed.
They didn't have a choice.
They didn't have a choice.
Yeah, right, so that's
So-
the part that,
Right.
that is the valid argument.
And then when I'm arguing in terms of where those dollars would, come from in terms of, is that there was, in terms
Right.
of specific pandemic
Right.
support that, could provide that.
Right.
And so, and then, just trying to give answers for those, so we've, started the process already with informing clients, the Department of Health, the contract agencies, and then the caregivers, that they have lots of questions about where they're left at the end of this.
Right.
And then a little bit that's is going to be in question is on the full timers, as we're transitioning, because this is a transitional period, and it's not like you just say, okay, we end everything with the clients on the 31st of December. Those people start transitioning, or we have clients that would pass away or leave the area or go into another. So now we have workers that may actually be ending before then, because they won't have the hours. We're not bringing on new clients because our agency is ending.
Right,
So normally they would get assigned a new client.
Right.
So now we have, okay, in order to maintain on existing benefits, they're supposed to maintain 30 hours a week, 120 hours a month. So as we have some people that are shifting earlier to maybe other agencies or other options, how do we, and the formal notice that needs to go to the caregivers hasn't happened. There's just been verbal discussion.
So is there a way to, because my gut says, I gotta figure out how to do it, is that we should try to keep those people whole if there's a way to do that. As far as if because it isn't, where it's full steam until December 31st and then we're done, because it's not gonna do that as people phase out. That is there a way that we can commit to keeping them on? Are we prevented? Can we is there a way to have that we waive that requirement for these specific employees as because we could have, a couple of them that maybe they're gonna fall below where we would not be providing
No,
full benefits. And can we
Some may
just
have
say,
some paid sick
we'll do
time,
that?
but they would be able to supplement those, so they might be able to, and then the other is that we may have people that
Well, they can
to
only
leave
they can only use
before
sick time if they're actually sick.
pardon me?
They can only use sick time if they're actually sick. They can't use that for supplement.
Right. Really, just so mean today.
But I mean, if they're clients.
That's Casey's
yeah,
job
it's-
normally.
yeah.
Hey,
She does it in a nicer way, though.
did you complain about my earrings?
Yeah. I didn't say it. No.
So you need an answer today about not the.
I would be curious more before we end this discussion on where you're at on this, and where Jake's at on this.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm real wishy-washy. I kind of feel like this is our causing these people to not have a job anymore, and that we should do what we can to help. I'm just worried about the precedent part.
Right.
So this is,
So, I mean, are you guys in that same train of thought?
Well, I would say it is for me, is like the biggest concern I have, if this was one isolated thing, I would say, we'll do it and we'll eat it and because we're investing a little bit more we're gonna have, we're ending this program. We are gonna have long-term budget savings from doing that, so I'm willing to do that. The problem that gives me cause is the precedent of it. If we have other understanding that if we make a really strong, ultimately, we're the ones that decide the precedent or not, other than in the bargain units where they're gonna point to, well, you did it for them.
And have you ever done severance for people? that
I
were-
don't know, not in I'm not aware of any other than in a administrative position, like a director, and that's where I was saying, I know we have provided, we have kept people on it, we must have had them on, they were getting leave, they were getting paid apparently into the,
Unpaid
And I
leave.
guess what,
And
I'm
that's how we did
advocating
it.
There's
for
usually
too
other
is that-
issues associated with those.
yes, there are. This is different. This is different.
Maybe
And I
so.
guess, I would be more financially positioned as an administrative person to.
I know,
Without,
right.
and I'm versus somebody.
Actually, we go on to that, I'm gonna give Commissioner Anderson an opportunity because I think he's back. If he wishes.
Thank you. Sorry, I missed some of the beginning of that, but the questions I have is, so as these people transition, these employees transition off of us to other providers, do none of the other providers provide healthcare? Do we know that for certain?
They do, but there's a 90-day period before they're eligible. They have to
Right.
work for 2 full months at the 80 hours a month. So it's not as many hours, fortunately, and then there's an application month. And so it's literally 3 months.
Right,
without.
so they would
That's-
not be eligible for 90 days.
Right,
So
and
that's
then,
that.
the option, so I thought, well, that's where I was wanting to see a severance that would then give the opportunity for those people that are losing, insurance that they could either afford to pay Cobra until they're eligible at their new position or purchase through the exchange, because even the exchange is still gonna cost them, when I was running numbers, is easily $500 a month for not near the coverage
Right.
they've had, but still with a Regions plan that would be available, looking at around.
And I guess that was something, the $800 number and the paying of the full Cobra. That was kind of something that stuck with me. It was kind of a, I don't mind paying part of it, but the employee can pick.
So I do think there's a difference between the scenario you mentioned earlier with 100 and whether there would be a severance package as part of that, as opposed to the budget process we're going through that would be potentially more similar to what's the issue here, that it's budget related, it's work related. So unless she needs a decision today, maybe we get through the budget process, which is at least getting to the first phase next Thursday.
Right.
To give it more time to 90-day severance packages. Pretty healthy.
Yeah.
For the right reasons. I'm not arguing that.
Well, I wouldn't
No, when
necessarily
I was saying
argue that it's a
90
90 day,
days,
it's not a
because
90-day
it's-
severance package.
It's
It's
96.
90 days of
For
healthcare. Not, because I look at severance and in a certain way, it's similar to when you ask folks to phase out of their jobs. I'm losing the acronym we usually use for that, where it's like early retirement and there's some benefit, because I get a long-term benefit, you get a little bit of it, and this is similar to
So
that.
is Cobra for a full family, $800?
No, that would be employee only, and the
$800
in-home
is by.
They don't
whole
have family coverage.
in-home aides only have employee
They only
only
have
coverage.
employee only.
I have
It's
a
just-
question. In 2007, I'm assuming you made some layoffs.
It wasn't until 2010.
Okay, 2010, I'm
Yes.
assuming you made some layoffs.
Yeah.
Did they get medical as they left?
I don't
Whatever,
believe so.
they-
We didn't do
when they
anything.
left?
It was,
It
that's
just-
the one where we didn't have any large, it was, there were some folks that
How many did you figure, guess?
it happened over a period of time. There was a bunch of them in the health department
Are we
where,
talking 3 or 20 or?
We laid off
ballpark?
2 in senior
I think it
service.
was
Yeah.
15.
I would say about 15 across the whole.
And they didn't get
organization.
any kind of a severance
No.
here.
I don't believe so.
No.
I don't remember. Yeah, Casey's like, no, they did not.
One thing we got to think about is Dan makes a good point, is that when these federal dollars that currently are going into the health department run out, we will be faced with this exact same situation that we're looking at right now. We all know it's going to be like 2010 again when all those federal funds run out. And do we want to set this precedent? I'd like to see from you guys, if you're not bringing new people on, what's this phase out look like between now and the end of the year? And then is there a way to manage those people so that they can stay on? Or are we just going to let them go and then let them go to a new provider? And then also looking at that in terms of to the end of the year, if they lose their, either the person passes or moves away or whatever, what are our options in that instance? After the beginning of the new year, while I want to help, and in the 90 days is something that's difficult to deal with, I have to really do worry about setting that precedent for everything else moving forward. I don't think this is going to be the last at all.
Right. And that's kind of me, if they lose in December, that's an easier ask for me than to try to cover January. Because whether we're looking years down the road in the health department or in October in the budget, there might be a few more. If you go for these, you need to go for those or whoever's coming next too, so.
Well, so then maybe the other option though is to look at the special pandemic pay, the hourly pay that's said to apply.
What I keep trying to tell you is the commissioners have denied that for every other employee group that's asked for that.
No, but I mean, this was
Hazard pay.
specifically provided in a management bulletin from the state that was awarded specific to home care aids and benefits, and whether or not calculating up the hours worked in those dates, and that rate, even in half, like saying, half of it was applied to insurance and half to that wage, if that ended
Well,
up
I think
coming
you
out
can, I
to
think
that
that's, I would
dollar
be
amount,
interested,
if
I would be
and then
interested
say,
in
oh,
knowing what that dollar
we're gonna
figure
pay
was.
this, we have this pandemic pay that the state awarded that is going to be paid out.
I mean, I would be curious what that
On your
was,
last
because
day.
I think we would have, had we not gotten that additional from the state, we still would have paid the healthcare benefit. We would have contributed. All it did is we had less we had to make up the difference with because of that. And so we didn't budget for that.
And it's specifically called out to those particular
positions.
that the state.
So I would be
has
curious what that
paid.
is, what that number is.
Okay. And I guess in terms of timelines, it's like, the questions I have from
Sure.
the caregivers right now is what is their drop dead date? Because as an employer, we have to give them notice of their position ending. I believe it's at least 2 weeks, it says in the manual. And
Right.
so we're waiting until the 2 weeks, or because
I don't think we need to wait if you know the program's going in. You can do.
but you're gonna say it's ending as of December 31st, and
Well, that's what
so,
you're saying. So we'll put that in the letter. Yeah, I mean, we'll put in there whatever. We'll work with that on the notice. I mean,
On another, following that thread personally, if we give people a notice right now that they're going to be ending at the end of the year, and I would say the smart people would dip out now and go get a position with one of those other providers if at all possible. I see this like with SDS and other local companies that are saying, if you stay around till the end of the year, we'll ensure that we keep your medical and everything paid. I know SDS gave a bonus for those that are willing to go all the way through the end of the transition. So I see some validity in that, just in trying to keep these people here till the end of the year, so that we don't have people that we're currently providing services to that we're going to lose, unless those people that we're going to lose anyways are just going to switch over to those other providers. If that's the case, I mean, then I see that as an instance where we could keep paying that health care till the end of the year. The person's already getting their 90 days or a good portion of their 90 days with the new provider. And at the beginning of the new year, then they're in a position where they can have insurance. They're all set up for their new position. There's a lot of different ways that you can slice this pie, I think.
Yeah, I think we might chew on this, talk about it again next week. Maybe have some better information.
yeah, because I just would like to give clarity to those folks.
Well, I don't think you have any.
Many questions.
You have none to give right now, because we obviously don't have clarity ourselves.
Okay, and I'll work up
Yeah.
numbers specific. I can provide, in terms of specifically what we
Yeah.
billed and were reimbursed for those hours and what they provided, and see what that dollar figure comes out to. And the management bulletin that's from.
So are those dollars just sitting in a bank right now, haven't been used? Or are we using those dollars?
They're
to
in fund balance.
It's just sitting in fund balance.
Right, it's revenue into the.
Well, they
fund.
just get deposited into our one
Right,
of
so
our
we
account.
we either use them and we pay these wages, or we could use them next year to pay something else.
If that ends up being that, you know, in terms of, there's a lot of unknowns, I guess, throughout the year too, is if we're gonna be supplementing non-reimbursed time too. So if we have clients ending and we have
Right.
caregivers that we need to pay, we won't have revenue coming in
Right.
for that, because that's specifically
Right, we're not
to
gonna get
offset that. So
reimbursed.
then that'll
right.
be fully paid, you know, kind of.
Right, right.
So,
Okay.
there's a lot of unknowns because
Right.
it's human beings that we're.
All right.
And I would call out a difference between grant funded positions that came in during the pandemic versus long-term employees.
Yeah.
So the ones in the health department where is those employees made that there, I can draw a distinction between if you staffed up to do the pandemic, that's a different position when the pandemic's over and the money goes away. Then I've worked for the department for 13 years and the department went away.
And I would agree, it's just
That's
like our
different.
volunteer coordinator position that'll be
Right,
there for 2
it's
years.
2
Don't ask for
years.
medical at the end of that, so there is a difference.
There is
I
a
agree.
difference. So I think you treat long-term employees different than you do, or at least I would consider treating them different than
And it's also
short-term grant
those
funded.
that are going to transition to like the individual provider program, they can't do that, but not get enough hours to qualify for benefits to make that.
Right, and I have no
transition.
problem of helping them along through the rest of this year if they were transitioning to cover the medical. It's just
And
the hard
we
part
may
is
have
the
people
first
that
part of
leave
next year.
before that, 'cause
I'll
we
have
have
to
people
chew
that
on
are
that.
applying for other positions, you know, even within the county.
Okay, let us work on it.
Okay,
So we have no clarity.
And if you could bring forward a couple or 3 different options by the end of the week, so we have something to mull over the weekend, that would be great.
So demanding.
Mute him.
You, Jim.
So a few other quick things then for HR.
Something easy.
Yes, yep, just an update on open enrollment. Flyers will be going out next week to employees, going over changes. Long-term disability, there is a change. It used to be that every employee that was in a benefited position would be able to automatically qualify for the basic LTD coverage that the county pays for. And now they are requiring them to automatically sign up for the employee portion of the 90-day 60% salary guarantee disability. So
Absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
so it means that in the system, I have to update salaries for over 200 people, and that is in the Pay One system. And so it's going to be a lot of weekend time of data entry.
So let's, before we go there, let's go
Mhm.
back to Commissioner Christopher's, maybe talk about the long-term disability program. So as it currently exists.
Yes, so currently we offer long-term disability to all employees. There is a basic county paid plan that guarantees that you could get up to $240 a month of disability if you were to become disabled, and that would kick in after 90 days. The employees also have an option to sign up for supplemental long-term disability, and it is a deduction out of their paycheck. And that guarantees that they would get 60% of their monthly income if they were to become disabled. And that 60% would kick in after the selected waiting period. So that is all optional for that 60%. At the end of the year, that becomes required unless you opt out from it. So now it stands that you have to sign up for that. And in 2021, you automatically are signed up for it unless you opt out. So it's in the system when I go in and enter salaries for all employees that have benefits. If they don't sign up for the optional long-term disability, I don't enter their salary. So I got a list of 150 people the other day that I have to go in and update their salary.
Exactly,
of this
because they've
change.
turned it around now, so if an employee's not thinking, or we don't notify them and they miss that opportunity, then
They're stuck for a year.
they're stuck for a year. So it's, you know, it's
Which is most employees.
Yeah.
I don't do anything until you make me do it. So I'm assuming the default is you're good.
Yeah, it's
like,
good.
this is all.
So this is a state mandate that's essentially trying to get people to opt in. Because now you're in unless you opt out.
And that's different, right? That's-
It's this, yeah, the long-term trust is different.
That's a whole nother.
whole different.
Right, that's a
But
whole
yes,
idea, but it's the
yes.
same idea.
Same idea.
Yes, yeah,
Instead of
you're
having to
opting
opt into
in,
This fancy program, now you have to opt out of
Yeah.
it.
correct, yes.
For very limited
That one you don't
reasons.
even get to opt out unless you want to go broke.
So just an update on that. Open enrollment will be November 1st to the 30th. We
Plenty
do-
of emails to employees to give them the opportunity.
And then the salary survey, you know, is originally we'd hope to have some information to you around this time, but we gave consultant an extension so they could continue to get more data. Number of counties were very helpful and eager because they also get some of the results, but then the data that they don't get from counties, they go out and get it themselves from various sources. And that takes a little bit longer. So we erred on the side of getting more data, better data, and delaying the report a little bit. So we'll have a better idea, hopefully this week, of where they're at, and when we can expect to get that report to you. So
Yay.
It'll be nothing but good news.
Yeah. Well, for 250 people.
Or 150.
and with
Yeah.
that, we're ready to go into executive session for labor.
That'd be closed session, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
please.
How long do you think? Thank you.
Oh, well, then, we're already into their lunch hour.
Thanks,
We're
That's
everybody.
fine.
15 minutes, I think, for sure, then we need to extend it.
Okay, we will go into executive session in accordance with, or a closed session in accordance with RCW 42.30.110.1. So this is G, so it is G. No, this is a closed session to discuss, oh, I'm sorry, let me start over. This is a closed session in accordance with RCW 42.30.140.4. This is to discuss collective bargaining in accordance with that RCW for 15, we'll start with 15
Could
minutes.
you please ask the audience to remove themselves from Zoom? We're going
Yes.
into closed session.
So yeah, you're gonna have to leave, all of you, but
Turn the recorder off.
yeah, turn the recorder off too, please. It's 1 o'clock. Okay, I will call the meeting to order. Let the record show. I believe all three commissioners are present. Commissioner Anderson is attending via Zoom. So we'll start first with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the business agenda as presented.
I'll give Commissioner Anderson a second to unmute himself. Second, there you go.
Second.
There you go. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the business agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 I don't believe there's anything.
No. Okay, motion passes. We don't have minutes. That takes us into citizen comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the Board of Commissioners on items that are not on the agenda later. I'll start in the room. We have folks on Zoom, looks like, and we have folks in the room. So I will come in the room first per our tradition. Saying no, sir? Yes, if we can have your name if you'd like. And
Eric Young, Cedar Valley, here in Goldendale. Recently, we just saw changes in the WisDOT manpower here for our area. A lot of people starting to get concerned. So I was wondering if the state's reached out to the county to augment the manpower. And if so, is there financial assistance from the state on that? Or are they planning to augment with their own personnel to make up the deficiency? In the event that there's no augmenting of forces and the county's required to pick up some of this for public safety, what's the plan when we have to pull our county assets off of the school bus routes to take care of the state routes? Obviously, there are some states that are already looking at utilizing, National Guard personnel that have been mobilized for the COVID thing. That's where my background of 20 years as a Marine. If we do that, there's a phrase that we use, it's called mission creep. You open the door for 12 guys to come in, then all of a sudden, well, we need 20 more to support that. And then to support that 30 plus, now we need another 40, and it just keeps building. And then the cost starts adding up. And since there's no structure here for them, that's going to mean lodging assistance via our hotels and stuff like that, which that'll put a crunch on, travelers through the area, family members that are coming into the area and stuff like that. The big thing I'd like to see is if you all have worked with the state and developed a plan with some contingencies and probably get that out to the public before the real bad weather starts to hit. So at least the public can see there's a plan on paper to kind of guide how we're going to get through the winter season with reduced manpower assets. Obviously, our county by numbers is not going to be the priority for the state to augment people out of the high density areas like King County, Snohomish County, stuff like that, where just the sheer numbers of people are going to require more attention to the roadways out there. So that's my concern. Is there a process that's in place? Is there planning going on to deal with this, or is it just kind of a new thing? And what's the plan on getting it out to the public so they can rest assured that there's something in the works?
I guess I would say no, we don't have any knowledge of what the state's gonna do. In my short time here, I will say the state doesn't tell me much. They kind of do their own thing, and I'm the last to know. You probably know before I know half the time. I'm sure I would hope that they're coming up with a contingency plan. I don't know if they're gonna give it in our purview to know what that is until kind of know what that is. I could be wrong, but that's just fine. Take from sitting here.
Yeah, I'd say I would confirm, as far to my knowledge, we have not had any communication from the state. I think they're waiting, or I'm speculating right now as to exactly what the situation is going to be after the 18th. And then I would expect if they think they're going to rely on county resources, they would have to reach out to us, because that's not, they can't just, do it. They would have to have our permission to do that.
And we understand your budget's already set up
Right.
for the years. So, but
I would think they're gonna either rehire people, hire new people with sign-on bonuses, shift people from Tacoma over here to plow the road, or bring in a National Guard with the CDL to plow the road. I would assume those are their options. I can't imagine they would even ask us to do it. Possible, but
I guess my biggest thing is that if there is a plan that is developed, try to release that to the public
Absolutely.
as soon as possible. Because I know a lot of school age kids and parents, they're starting to really wonder how they're going to get their kids back and forth to school. So,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
100% agree. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're at citizen comment. I'm going to go to online now. There's several people on. Either raise your hand or unmute yourself. *6 if you're on a phone. If you want to make public comment.
Seeing none.
I'm not seeing anybody.
Oh, here's one. 721.
7211, go ahead.
Hello, this is Greg Laceet, citizens educated about solar energy. I'd like to know what RCW gave the commissioners the authority to preside over and the solar moratorium and make the decision to rescind it. What was the RCW number?
Okay, Mr. Wagner, I don't have that RCW at my fingertips. So if I can certainly get that to you.
And you have my email address. Will you get back to me?
Sure, but okay.
All right, I will expect an answer. Thank you very much.
I would assume, I'm speculating that, I assume it's in the planning enabling that portion of the RCWs.
Well, I would like to know the exact one that gave you the authority to preside over the decision for the solar, because I'm confused, because it's supposed to go through the Board of Adjustments. According to Mr. Anderson a few weeks ago, his statement was that solar decision would go to the Board of Adjustments. So I wondered, why did it go to the BoCC?
That would be.
And then other issues go to a planning commission.
Okay, Mr. Wagner, that would be, Commissioner Anderson is correct. A specific project would go to the Board of Adjustment. A planning moratorium or a moratorium, that is a general, and that covered a whole set. So that would be a completely different thing. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I was one of them that did it, as far as those are two different things, sir.
Okay, then how is it possible that Mr. Anderson can write a resolution for an ordinance pertaining to solar connecting to the Knight Road substation if there's no specific plan? There was an ordinance written that solar connecting to the Knight Road substation would be subject to the conditional use process.
Sir, Mr. Wagner.
There's no specific plan at Knight Road, so I wonder, how can you write an ordinance for that?
Sir, you cannot, you're mixing your terms. An ordinance was not written. Ordinances cannot be written by resolution. Their resolutions and ordinances are two different things. There was a resolution that for planning purposes, applications that come in that connect to the Knight Road substation would be treated, they would be sent through the conditional use permit process. That was not an ordinance.
I would think that even if that resolution was never made, that was just for the public's clarification. Because since that hookup is outside of the EOZ, they all would have did that anyway, regardless on whether there was a resolution. The resolution was just for public knowledge.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Wagner, your time's up. I will get you the RCW on that we used to enact the moratorium. Thank you, sir.
All right, and there was supposed to be a law that said you had to rescind it. I'd like to see that one too.
Okay, thank you, sir. We are still in public comment. We had another member of the public join us in person. This is your opportunity if you wish to address the board. No? Okay, I'm going to go back to folks online. So please either raise your hand in the app or *6 or unmute yourself, get our attention. Not seeing anybody. People are not very talkative today. I'm okay with that. Okay, well, if you change your mind, get our attention. That's work on some other stuff.
Gabrielle Gilbert.
Okay.
I knew the minute I reached for something.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Gilbert, Miss Gilbert, go ahead, please.
Hi, Lynn Mason is attempting to get into public comment and she gets a window that says she's been removed by the host. I don't know how to correct it. She's always used the same device to get into public comment. So if we can get that organized in a way that she is able to get there today, that would be exceptionally good. It is just, she gets a window that says the host has removed her name. So
It was removed during closed session this morning. Nobody was barred from coming back in. I know we had one other citizen that had issue for a while too.
They might need to shut down and restart.
Come back.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, I'm not blaming that you're doing it intentionally. I'm just
No,
trying to
and-
get her
and
in.
Definitely not even ever.
I understand that. I'm not,
frustrating.
I don't believe, yeah, I believe you.
Yeah.
Here's two things I'd like to bring up. You have a childcare deficit in this county. You have people that are looking for childcare, who are searching for people to accommodate that. And we do not have a plan in place coming from the commissioners as to how to address industries that are in our county and private and public sector to get the childcare situation addressed. You have a big, important ideas about development in this county, about economic growth. And the one criteria that has been missing for decades is childcare. And it is problematic from west to east end. And I know that, and I understand that from Commissioner Christopher, that there is in WAGAP apparently a committee addressing that. But I am asking you as a body of elected officials to get a grasp on how you're going to do private public sector for childcare in the county, and get it out of committee and get it into an action. And finally, to my representative, Commissioner Jake, can you please come down to the West End before Christmas to meet with your constituency? I feel you've brought that offer before, and I kind of want to get a date in the calendar as to when that is happening, and giving the constituents access to you. And finally, for WAGAP, I want that the services that WAGAP gives are important and need to be funded. You need to walk your talk. You also need to address the fact that a woman wrote in a letter to the editor admitting to doing the vandalism and trespassing on WAGAP for the Black Lives Matter mural, and how that is being addressed in them seeing some sort of conclusion with that criminal act, and how that's being addressed as a criminal act, which she has no regret doing, as posted in her letter to the editor. So thank you for your time.
Ms. Gilbert?
Jake.
Jake would like to.
Jake, yes, go ahead. Commissioner Evans.
Hi, Ms. Gilbert. I just wanted to let you know that I'm doing that town hall on the west end at the Pioneer Center next Tuesday at 7:00 p.m.
Now that's a thing of beauty. Thank you, Jake.
Okay, we are still in citizen comment. We have no more folks in, so folks online, hopefully Lynn Mason, Miss Mason, I don't know if you've joined yet.
Sure, those kids on the-
Okay, Sherry Bosque, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jake, can you give me that time again where you'll be at the west end of our county?
Yeah, that is Tuesday, the 18th, I believe, at 7:00 p.m. at the Pioneer Center. No, Tuesday the 19th. Tuesday the 19th at 7:00 p.m. at the Pioneer Center.
Okay, will that also be available by Zoom or just in person?
Yes, it is available by Zoom. I created the Zoom for it and I sent it to the group. I think there's 15 people on it. I will forward that to you right now.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I appreciate you meeting with us on the west end, is that we have lots of concerns, as you know, over here. But today I wanted to follow up on my conversation last week, asking the commissioners if you had a findings of fact to rescind the moratorium to put solar ordinances in place. And Commissioner Sauter said you would follow up with me. Have you obtained those findings of facts, and are you able to send those to me?
I have not, and thank you for reminding me. I apologize, Ms. Bosque, for not giving, I suspect, because I'm trying to recall, I believe there are not findings of fact, and I believe the reason there isn't findings of fact is that the moratorium was rescinded, so we took no action, so there was not any necessary to have findings of fact. Had we done nothing, the moratorium would have expired on its own. It would have just sunsetted and gone away. And so I need to confirm that with the planning director, but I believe when we've had this question before, that's been some of the confusion, because generally when we take an action, we do have to have findings of fact to take an action. But in this case, the action was to not take any action. And so it's basically the status quo, and that's why. So, but I will confirm that, and I will get back to you in the next couple of days. I'll make that commitment.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. As you know, this is a very hot topic for our county, as a lot of citizens came to the moratorium, and the majority of the citizens had asked our county to extend the moratorium and to put solar ordinances in place to protect our future, to protect our valuable agricultural land. And so you heard the citizens talk and you heard our voices. And I believe that the majority of the people were very clear. And I also was reading an RCW that said, I'm not an attorney, and maybe I do need to go through the county attorney, but it seems that either you were to put a findings of facts in place for the moratorium, or you needed to write a findings of facts of why you rescinded the moratorium. So I look forward to hearing more about this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bosque. Okay, we're still in citizen comment. Is there anybody else? Please raise your hand, *6 if you're on a phone, or just unmute yourself, or physically wave your hand around if your camera's on. Not seeing anybody. Okay, well, if you change your mind, get our attention. I'm glad you reminded me. That was on my list of things I was supposed to.
I don't think there was any wordage on the.
Yeah, and
I think it started with wordage and we removed wordage.
right. I think that's why, is because you don't actually, if you're not taking an action, there is no findings of that.
Chairman Sauter, could I get a little bit of an overview of who the first speaker was? I thought I heard my name, but I was also on talking with a representative. What was that first one about? Yeah, it was in the room.
In Chambers, it was Eric Young.
And
It was talking about WashDOT, snow plow, people leaving, and what the future plan is for that.
Okay, thank you.
There's one, 0088.
0088. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering what,
Sir, can you
the
go ahead? I suspect but go ahead. If we could have your name, please, sir, for the record.
Delmer Eldred,
Thank you, sir.
what would it take for the citizens to be able to demand that the commissioners initiate ordinances and to take on the moratorium? What would we have to do to get that done?
Are you asking from a legal?
I'm asking what is it going to take to get you to move on creating ordinances on the development of these solar unregulated restrictions?
Well, first, sir, I would say they're not unregulated. There are significant regulations that go with any solar development that wants to locate in Klickitat County.
What are they? What are their regulations, or where would you find them?
Well, they would be. We have two permitted projects in Klickitat County right now, one under construction and one I believe soon to be under construction. In East County, you could certainly take a look at their the permits that they did and the permit requirements. So there obviously was a bunch of them. They go through the through the conditional use permit process like those did, unless, or those did not, because those were in the energy overlay zone. But again, there is a myriad of requirements on projects, so they're not it's like that there's not requirements for those.
Well, I guess try to rephrase my question that you'll understand it, is that the citizens want, ordinances set aside where they could not just build 10 feet from the road, 100 feet from your house or your property. They want that there has to be some stringent restrictions on battery storage facilities and stuff like that. So what do we have to do to get the commissioners to move on that stuff? How do you go about that?
Mr. Eldred, this is Commissioner Anderson. I wanted to say thank you for your email that I just got this morning. Like you, I don't want to see broken solar panels out there. I don't want to see that. That's why we would require bonds, so that if they didn't clean it up themselves, the bonding company would be required to, or the money would be there to require it. In terms of you bringing up the batteries, all of that will be done during the environmental impact statement. And what will happen is you can provide your comments, which I'm sure you will provide many, and they will have to respond to those comments and show that they are not causing environmental degradation and damage. And if they have any type of damage or degradation, they have to mitigate it. So there's a process that everybody has to go through in order to achieve what if a company puts in an application. So when you say you don't want to see it, yes, I understand your position from the sense of fear, not knowing where you're at. But with the EIS process and the scoping process, the companies will be required to answer all these questions that you're bringing up. Many of them are not questions that we as commissioners can answer, and we're not supposed to answer those questions.
Well, in regards to what you just said, Mr. Anderson, when they had a meeting at the Goldendale Grange, Cypress, I approached the lady that was there, asking her the same question: is there's going to be an overabundance of this solar waste, and what are your plans to do with it when the landfills will not take anymore? Because the goal, Roosevelt can't take them; they have to go to other places. And so what are you going to be? Where are the plans where they'll go? So she sends me to another person, and I ask him, and he says, well, you'll have to go talk to so-and-so. And so then I go to him, and then I get to him, and I says, it's a simple question. What plans do you have so all this garbage doesn't end up in Klickitat County with no place to go? He says, well, if you're going to argue with me, I'm not going to talk to you. It was a question. There was no argument. I asked him a question. So that's the answer I get from these people that are going to be responsible for the decommissioning of all this stuff. When you ask them what you're going to do with the garbage, where's the garbage going? Because you can't take it to Roosevelt, and Arlington's already filling up.
Mr. Eldred, your time has elapsed. I did pause your time for the time when the commissioners were answering you, so you did get your full 3 minutes of commenting, sir. So thank you. Well,
you guys don't have an answer. They don't have an answer.
Sure.
So, the only thing is that you guys should be concerned about the future of this county, and you're not.
And I believe we are, sir. And for the record, sir, I have no hideaway in Borneo or Belize.
All you care about,
Let's move on.
Good grace with the developers, because.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the next commenter. Mr. Anderson, if you wish to respond, go ahead, sir.
Oh, I just wanted to say that all of the points that he makes are valid points, which is why the Washington State Legislature is having these discussions, including the photovoltaic modular stewardship and take back program, RCW 70.355. So please, this is a discussion. We're not trying to cut you off, but I can also tell you that I am getting no kickbacks and I have nowhere in Borneo, and I take offense to that. So thank you very much, Mr. Eldred.
Right. Yeah, again, the concerns that are raised, these are all legitimate concerns. I'm not trying to say that they're not, but those get dealt through. When you refer to them as garbage, that is, you are making an assessment that that is what these are, and they're not. As far as they're not at this time. If they turn into, they're under RCW, they have to be recycled. They have to be recycled or they have to be disposed of in an appropriate place. There's a bond in place that makes sure those have to go somewhere. That's the mitigation that's there. That you have no faith in that is a different conversation, but the controls are in place in the permitting process. So I'm going to move on to, we are still in citizen comment. If there is another citizen, although Belize is looking better all the time. So let's move on. Is there anybody else that wishes to provide public comment for the next 2 minutes? Actually, I'll give you 3. Nope, doesn't look like it. Okay, well, if you change your mind, unmute yourself. Although we're back in the room, we did have some new folks. I suspect you're not here for citizen comment, but you could be. You wished? No comment. It's an open invitation.
Give us an update on how you think the road committee is working out. I haven't been able to attend the last couple of those. You think that's working out okay?
I wish I could. I haven't been able to attend the last couple of them either because at first on the 12th, my grandmother died that day. And then we had the funeral 2 weeks later, which happened to fall basically about the next meeting. So I unfortunately haven't been able to attend either. Mike and I both haven't.
So what you've seen, it's great.
I think it's going along real well so far, yeah.
So when I first started watching it, just kind of for oversight, I was a little worried, but it looked like you guys had it pretty well handled.
I think everybody's kind of has the same idea. And
yeah.
I think it's going to be beneficial to the county.
Good thing. Good.
Okay. Nothing more. Okay, I think we're going to move on then. That will be the end of citizen comment for today. We're going to move on to time we've set aside for public hearings, public meetings, and bid openings. Our first order of business is a public meeting for final approval of a 3-lot binding site plan, which is BSP 2021-02. This is parcel number 02-13-3313-0001/00. This is in the Dallsport vicinity. This is the Lyle School District. The superintendent is the applicant. So Ann, I don't know if Ann is on it. I guess we will start with thank you. See you later. The planning department will have a brief staff review if Denise is on. Okay, Denise, go ahead.
Good afternoon, commissioners. As you said, this is a binding site plan number BSP 2021-02. It's a proposal to separate the former Dallsport School Building, the Dallsport Community Center, and vacant land on parcel number 02133314000100. There will be no change to current use. The proposal is located between Central Boulevard and Dallsport Road in Dallsport. The administrative review of this short plat has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the road, health, and planning departments, including the treasurer's office. All conditions attached to preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds that it's in the public interest to approve this short plat, a motion will need to be made to approve BSP 2021-12 and grant final approval. The applicant is Lyle School District. The representative is Ann Barkados, the superintendent.
Thank you. This is a public meeting, so if there's anyone that wishes to provide testimony, this would be your opportunity. Not seeing anybody. Okay, thank you. Questions for staff on this? I looked through, this is actually this is a good solution to that issue down there. So I'm definitely supportive. If not, then I would.
So
go ahead.
Is the community center owned by the county?
The building is owned by well, we think the building is owned by the county. The land is not. It's actually owned by the school.
Yeah, wasn't the treasurer supposed to be looking into whether we actually own the building or not?
Well, we've looked into it before, and its title is, yes, this is part of those parcels down there and ownerships that we're supposed to get some clarity over the actual ownerships.
Right.
This is part of that. I had suggested to the school district when they were proposing to separate off the school that this would be a precursor also for solving all of that too. If the community center sits on its own lot, then once its final disposition gets figured out, it'd be easy to get it transferred one way or the other.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
okay, any other questions?
That was my only question. I'm ready for a motion whenever you want one.
I'm ready.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve the final 3-lot binding site plan BSP 2021-02, parcel number 02-13-3313-0001/00 in the Dallasport vicinity, the applicant being the Lisle School District.
I would second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to grant final approval of BSP 2021-02. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Jameson votes aye. Motion passes unanimously. We'll get the Mylar signed and move on to our next one.
That's Diane already. That's already a new pen.
That's because I think you're switched them.
You stole my highlighter and my.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's what I do on the weekends.
Say that's just a new pen, but maybe it wasn't new when I got it. I don't think this one wants either.
Okay, our next order of business is a public meeting to consider approval of floor plan SPL 2021-01, parcel number 05-17-1452-000200 in the Goldendale vicinity. The applicants are Jennifer and Mike Callio. We will start with a brief staff report or a brief.
Okay, short plat SPL 2021-01 is a proposal to create 4 lots from parcel 05-17-1452-000200 in the Goldendale vicinity just south of Box Canyon. The admin review of the short plat has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the Road, Health, and Planning Departments and the Treasurer's Office. All conditions attached to preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds that it's in the public's interest to approve the short plat, a motion needs to be made granting final approval of SPL 2021-01, applicants Jennifer and Mike Callio.
Okay, thank you. I will now give an opportunity if there's anyone that wishes to speak on this. This is your opportunity. Okay, if not, I would, is there questions for staff? I have no questions.
No questions here.
Okay, I would entertain a motion then.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to approve short plat SPL 2021-01, parcel number 05-17-1452-0002/00 in the Goldendale vicinity, applicants being Mike and Jennifer Callio.
I would second the motion.
You have a motion and a second to approve short plat SPL 2021-01. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously.
Here, just need to write slow.
One of the ink that could perfect. Yeah, that's a nice.
Thank you, board.
We we were the first one of 21. If your short plat is 21-01.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, you were the first ones out of the gate, kid.
Let you roll it, huh?
She doesn't like it, she'll unroll it and re-roll it, so.
Well, just for that, I'm not gonna roll it too hard, just in case she wants to do that. Now you got me, all right, I'll never roll it again.
No, I don't know if there's a special way to roll it.
I
or
don't,
not. I don't
usually
think
it kind of has a pre,
Oh, pre,
They say usually they're a little tighter than mine, so.
yeah. All right, that will.
Came all the way here just for that, huh?
Just to watch it.
You
It's
couldn't
a
do
nice
it.
walk.
Oh, man.
a nice walk. We're hoping for maybe a little entertainment as
I
well.
know.
Or some Borneo property.
No, I don't want any entertainment.
Yeah, I guess I'll consult if I need to start looking down there.
it's a fun job you guys have.
Yay, remember you wanted it.
Yeah, I know.
All three of you.
Thanks, Mike.
I guess I will wait until the clerk was on here before, but I assume she's come. Oh, are you gonna come down, Renee, or are you?
She's,
It looks like there's a fireplace behind her, so.
Oh, okay. Well, we will move on then with continuing our discussion regarding who will manage the reporting reimbursements for the Washington State Administrative Office of the Court's Interagency Reimbursement Agreement to provide reimbursement to the county for extraordinary judicial, prosecutorial, or I'm amazed I could say that out loud, and defense-related costs of resentencing and vacating the sentences of defendants whose convictions or sentences in Superior Court and District Court were affected by the State versus Blake decision.
I'm glad you had to read that.
Yeah, it's just good for the reference so folks get it.
There's a little tie in there.
Hey, Renee.
Hey, afternoon,
I'm
gentlemen.
sorry, Madam Clerk, that was a little.
That's okay.
little familiar for me.
That's okay.
So we will continue our discussion. I did get an opportunity on Friday. I did to talk to a little bit as far as on my WASAC meeting. I didn't get a whole lot of new information other than what I did hear is that it would have, we're running a little ahead, sorry, Mary Jo ran down here. That in at least a couple of the counties that I got some feedback from, the program was being run out of the clerk's office with, a lot of support from all the other folks. There was not a whole lot of concern, I would say, with the contract, the way it was written, the reporting requirements from other folks, that they kind of felt like they kind of liked the vagueness of it. Like they felt like they sort of, I guess, read between the lines. And again, these are commissioners relating stories that, they're from their clerks, from not their clerks, from court clerks. So again, this is secondhand, which is now third-hand knowledge to you. So we'll take it for whatever it's worth. And so that was really the limit of what I heard on Friday from some other.
Okay.
Understanding that it was 3:30 on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the additional information I have to bring to the table. So the clerks had a Q&A at the Waco conference on Thursday with Christopher Stanley, who is the administrative office of the court's new financial manager. And he said the same thing about the reporting, that they felt that there was enough in there. And I did make a suggestion that they send out an Excel spreadsheet that had the columns, the criteria that they're looking for. It just doesn't make sense for me, to the administrative office of the courts, to have 39 different Excel spreadsheets with not having the same information. But they didn't seem too concerned about it, so I got to let that one go. The other thing that was brought up was the vagueness is not a big deal until we get audited on it. And so the state auditors are going to have a different opinion, I'm sure, about, what is required to administer this contract. So those were some of the concerns that was brought back that I picked up from the meeting with Christopher Stanley. So I don't see anybody from the district courts in your gallery there. I did reach out to Sally and Jane about their involvement with Blake cases, and they have not had any cases brought before the court to be vacated or resentenced or anything. So they don't have any information yet, and both Jane and Sally are short-staffed today and didn't know if they were going to make it in. Jane thought they would try to get in by Zoom, but I guess I haven't checked to see if they actually made it.
You can look, we're a little bit ahead. Let me look here.
Yeah. So that was the information that I had. And, as I mentioned last week, is I just wanted to give you information about other alternatives and ways other counties were doing the process. And so just so that, you guys had something to look at that was, not just directed at one department, that there are other ways of facilitating the project manager position within other departments. So if you guys make a decision that my office is the one to facilitate it, I'm happy to do it. I just wanted to make sure that all of that there was information out there about other possibilities.
Okay. Questions or comments from the room? Yes, Ms. Bartley.
So I spoke with Renee a little bit this morning, and the vagueness that she's experiencing right now with the Blake decision seems to be something that I've dealt with through CRF funding and ARP funding, and kind of the current trend on these grants that are coming out. So my best advice to her was, every time she sees something come out, whether it's a blog, an email, direction of any sort, to print it, to make sure that the address is on it, the website address is on it, and the date is on it for those auditing concerns. That was direction provided to me from FEMA as well as US Treasury on all of these grants that we're experiencing. I'm happy to assist in any way that I can, whether it's providing some feedback or assisting with their first round of A19s as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's good advice, because Renee, your concerns about the vagueness were ones that we had on other with the, as Jen said, the ARPA dollar, and that was the guidance we got, was like, anytime you get anything, get a copy of it, put it in the file with the date and everything. And that way, if you get audited, you can say, well, the reason I did it this way is because on this date, this is how we were directed to do it. Even if it changed later, then, have that one. And well, we did these this way because that's what you told us to do. And then in some cases, a week later, it was a different direction, and then a different direction. And
you could show you were acting in good faith.
You were acting in good faith.
Right.
Just make it your own thing. And I think that's, I really appreciate your
Excitement.
well, I appreciate your excitement that you're happy.
Oh, I'm the winner.
Happy, I wasn't excited. You're happy to do this. I really appreciate that. But I do really respect your concern over making sure this is done right. And I know that concern comes from just, want to make sure that the county's okay and that we're all okay and that we don't get an audit finding or something else. So it's well placed. So, but I suspect the board is hoping that since you will happily have this in there, that I think that's what we would like to do.
I have full
Okay.
faith in you, ma'am.
What's that?
With it, I have full faith in you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Understanding.
I have good staff to help me.
And if you need,
Yes.
if there's something that staff that we have any influence over, if you're not getting what you need, let us know and we can
Okay, yeah,
help with that.
yeah. So can we move forward? I mean, with signing the contract?
Okay.
Yeah, where are we at with that?
It was pending this decision. It'll be on next Tuesday's consent for consideration and approval.
Okay.
We will move forward. We will. Okay. Commissioner Anderson, did you have anything that you wanted? He might be on another meeting.
He did have another meeting. I just wasn't sure if he was hiding.
Nothing to add here.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Thanks, Renee. Before we leave the topic, anybody else in the room? No? We're good?
Do we need any kind of a motion to make her the representative, or is it just good enough what we just did?
Her name will appear on the contract as the
That'll do
manager.
it.
Right. Well, all right. Thanks, Miss Campbell.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right. Thank you all. Thanks, Rachel. Okay, we will move on. We can move to consent if folks are amenable.
I can. Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with all 11 items.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with all 11 items. Any further discussion? Excuse me. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we pay the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $272,289.83, and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $769,459.76 for the date ending October 11th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to pay the bills. Any discussion on those? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously.
You want to Jake sign this since he voted?
I'll put it in later.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, wow, we're running way ahead. Here, 20.
I didn't know how long that discussion.
Yeah, I didn't either, how it was gonna go, but that was, yeah, the folks around I only got a couple commissioners that I could keep on the line when we got to.
It's gonna be one of those that's just messy until there gets to be clarification, just like every other grant, I think.
So do we have our next business, the unfinished business, the findings, conclusions, and decisions? You feel like
Yes,
that
I
is
do.
a time specific, or
No,
can we do it
no, it's
early?
not.
Okay. Okay, then we will move on to that item. This is to adopt findings, conclusions, and decisions in support of the board's decision of Tuesday, October 5th, to approve the application OS FCL-2021-01. This is for classification to open space farm and ag conservation land for current use, classification under chapter 84.34. The applicant is Floyd Bartness. So I will read the following into the record, because this is per the RCW. The property subject to this application consists of two parcels, 04-16-1900-0002/00, which consists of approximately 384.11 acres, and parcel number 04-16-2032-0004/00. This is approximately a 1.66 acre parcel for a total of 385.77 acres. According to the assessor's records, the parcels have been enrolled in the open space farm and agricultural land current use classification under RCW 84.34.020(2) October 4th, 1988, they were enrolled and have continued in enrollment without interruption. Present improvements located on the property include a residence, a shop, and a barn on parcel 04-16-1900-002/00. The other parcel 04-16-2032-0004/00 is bare land. The applicant describes the present use of the land as cattle pasture. The current use is idle land due to disabilities. If approved for open space and agricultural conservation land, annual property taxes would be approximately $1,842.12 based on this year's levy rate, resulting in a gain of $1,120.53. The applicants shall manage for weed control pursuant to state law, that is RCW 17.10, and current county noxious, and also the current county noxious weed control list. The applicants must establish a ground cover to protect the resource being conserved under the granting of this application. Granting of application covers 384.77 acres, and any change in use or parcel size will void this agreement. Failure to comply with any of one of the terms and conditions will result in removal from the classification. Compliance with the terms and conditions of this agreement will be monitored and enforced by the Klickitat County Assessor's Office. In conclusion, the board has found that the applicants have demonstrated that the property fully meets the definition and requirements of open space farm and agricultural conservation land as defined under RCW 84.34.020.8, and that the primary use of the property has been commercial agriculture, and at this time no longer meets the criteria, but has a high potential for returning to commercial agriculture in the future. And with that, I would accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to adopt the findings, conclusion, and terms and conditions as presented in the support of the board action granting approval of application number OS-FCL-2021-01 as filed by the applicants Floyd Bartimus for classification as open space farm and agricultural conservation land for current use assessment under Chapter 84.34 of the RCWs. Additionally, the chairman is authorized to sign the notice of approval of application for classification as open space, as well as the open space taxation agreement.
I would second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Good.
Thank you for the cheat sheet.
Yeah, that was helpful. So I didn't have to scroll as I was reading all of that. Next, continued board discussion regarding the surplus of law enforcement body armor / bulletproof vests.
Mr. Chairman, we are about half an hour ahead.
We were hoping to have the sheriff.
Yes.
And- Okay, why don't we go ahead and take, maybe can you let him know that we're
Yeah, I'm gonna
running
go
ahead?
make some emails right now.
And then actually, why don't we move on to other board pending if there's anything or updates or reports from commissioners, committees or anything that you participated in?
Sure, I should have been more prepared for that. Other than Goldendale Reds, essentially there was a follow-up meeting with where to go from here. There was talk that it would be nice to have a single person facilitator for all of the projects. Some of the entities thought that the county should fund such a position. My personal opinion is that since these are mainly city projects, the city should fund such a position, and if they would like a cost share for funding said position, they could ask the three main entities, being the city, the county, and the hospital, to all pitch in. It doesn't sound like the city wants to go that route. They want to just kind of move on their own items. If that's the case, I think the hospital will move on their own items. My only worry is some of the side items, like the parks and trails, will have to be done by the Parks and Rec district that doesn't have a whole lot of time, knowledge, or capability in facilitating some of that stuff. So I think by not having someone, we could be leaving some options behind. But that's kind of so far the direction that is going. There has been a couple of grants applied for since the Reds, and so that sounds good. But yeah, that's kind of the brief update on the Reds.
Okay.
Oh, and insurance sent an email, and now it looks like instead of everything going over 17%, it looks like 20%.
Ooh, wow, that's great news. Thank you.
Just spread the joy.
Not even insurance flat at 20%.
Spread the joy.
20%. Good Lord. Okay, Commissioner Anderson, anything you want to share?
I'm just focusing on meeting with all these state reps and senators on the bridge. That's got me full scheduled for the next week or so.
Right. We do appreciate you doing that. So thank you, sir.
The joys of living in District 1.
Yes, I will, an update, as I had mentioned, I did have a Wasac Board of Directors meeting on Friday at 3:30, a Zoom meeting. It was a special meeting. It was to take up the lead steering's recommendation to pursue litigation against the state in the Blake decision and the funding of the legal financial obligations that the state has provided partial sum funding, which was the subject that we were talking about before. The Board of Directors did vote to initiate or to join. There is already a suit underway, of which we're actually one of the, we've signed on. As I believe we're actually up to 21 of the 39 counties now. And so this would authorize Wasac to participate. There is which the board voted unanimously to support that. Basically pursuing it as an unfunded mandate that it's not us that should be paying for that. It should be the dollars went to this, we collected those legal financial obligations on behalf of the state. The money was remitted to the state. Why would we pay for half of the reimbursement? That makes no sense. And so the board did vote unanimously to support that action, which also included an assessment, which is technically voluntary to pay for it, because obviously Wasac can't make counties pay for anything. And so our share, and this would come in the next year's budget during this is $3,341, I believe is what our voluntary assessment will be for and that is through, that is based on the estimate from the legal counsel as to what the total cost through appeal because they're assuming it will be appealed to the state Supreme Court. And so that was because it was really important for us to get a total. That should be the maximum amount. And
I'm
then
assuming that's a cost sharing based on per capita.
it's per capita across the population, across the state of Washington. So that's our share on a per capita basis of the total maximum anticipated, with the little asterisks the attorneys always put, like, we don't really know absolutely.
Yeah. See you in 3 months.
Yeah. Well, no, that's over the next probably 18 months. And which I understand, you don't know what your total costs are going to be. We did have a discussion about what happens if it gets settled and we end up not having to go, what happens to that money? And so that will be something that the board would take. Most folks would either refund it on a percentage basis or apply it to next year's dues or something that we would have, whatever. We said we'd have to work with the auditor's office to find out what was the legal way to shift the money back around. But
Always somebody willing to spend it.
yeah, that was the board was really, it was important to us that no, we want the money back, or we want it. It was set up for this, and we can't spend it on something else.
Right.
And so everybody said, no, we will either want our money back, or we want it applied towards our future dues that are due. So So that's something during our budget thing, if we, again, it's voluntary, but it's, considering we've signed on as one of the people in the lawsuit.
The problem is even the people that didn't sign on that aren't paying are gonna reap the rewards.
They will. Although, I mean, I think it's pretty universal. When we've done those assessments, we've generally never had anybody not pay, or if they were not going to, it wouldn't have been a unanimous decision. There would be holdouts that were like, I don't think this is a good idea, and my county's we're not paying.
Okay.
So,
It's still pretty early in that process.
yes,
Yeah.
so.
Please.
So that's because the big discussion point was the legislature is paying attention. And so they have actually, there's talks going on about committing more dollars. And so the discussion is over, it's not just about the money, it's about the precedent of you can't just do things and expect us to pay for it. And so there's some talk about, well, they can, and that's what this case would that's why we care about it.
Right.
And so there's a principle and there's the dollars. And so there is debate still to be had on if they came back and said, we'll write a check for all of it. Do we still go ahead to set the record straight in the courts as to we don't want, because otherwise it could be a year from now or 2 years from now, you're just doing it again, insert a different topic in there. And so, but I would say that was more of a split decision, because it's like, well, no, if they'll fully indemnify us and pay for everything, then we'll take our win and go home and keep our money and send us our refund. So I think that's to be determined.
Yeah, well, sounds reasonable.
Okay, that's all I had. That since we have the parties here now, so we can go on. Since we were running so far ahead, which
And we ran down.
yeah.
Just finished an interview at the right time.
Perfect. Okay, well, we will go back with our earlier conversation, or at least the issue was raised about surplusing of law enforcement body armor / bulletproof vests. So we will continue that. You want to raise, I guess I can. We did.
Well, I've already raised it, that I think if it's truly surplus, I believe there is a value to the citizenry in those items. And under RCW, I think the taxpayers have a right to get whatever money or value is still left in those items, returned back to the tax rolls. Which, whether it's this or an office chair,
right?
If you remember, I had the same argument with an office chair 6 months ago, so it's not like I'm singling anybody out. Anything of value should go to surplus auction if possible. So that's what brought this up.
So.
I just wanted to clarify, are you talking about just metal, or are you the Kevlar, or are you talking about the vests themselves?
I would imagine it's what we replaced, which would be the class 3 body armor and either the steel or the Kevlar plates contained within.
Something that you need to be aware of is up until this last purchase of ballistic vests, only the Kevlar was purchased by the county. All of those carriers were purchased individually and owned by the deputies.
Anything that they bought is there.
And so the only thing you are talking about right now then is those plates.
So no level 3 body armor.
Those have only been purchased starting last year by the county. Everything else was purchased by the deputies
So
themselves.
the only thing we're dealing with is the ballistic plates contained within.
And the Kevlar.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
Kevlar,
and the
yeah.
Kevlar.
The
The
insides.
carriers were purchased in, so basically there are two different types of carriers that you can get for those vests. You can get an outer carrier, which is what we've moved to. It takes a lot of the weight off of the deputies.
With the molly pouches and the molly.
All that stuff is owned individually by the deputies. We don't buy any of that. They buy that themselves. The carriers, for the outer carriers, those were all purchased by the individual deputies up until this last purchase. But we provided basically an internal carrier. So where you put the vests, or basically the the Kevlar or the metal plating or what have you was inside those, and then that would be actually inside the shirt.
Was it metal plate or was it ceramic or?
It was not ceramic. So the only ceramic that has been purchased in the past was purchased by individual deputies. And you can, law enforcement can buy that stuff.
Right. So we're just talking essentially AR-500 steel plating is the only thing that counts.
None of that should have been purchased in the past. It would just be all Kevlar and then whatever small plates were on that. All the AR-500 stuff would have been, I'm assuming that's recent. I don't know that we have any
so
actual
that-
AR-500.
Most of those were purchased 5 years ago, so they're now out of their expiration. The only reason they're replaced is because they've been expired.
So
And
there's two.
So I guess some confusion then.
Yeah.
What Kevlar are you talking about? Is it just a pouch that holds the plate that goes in the vest that the deputies bought themselves?
Well, I'm not sure about the plates that you're talking about, but the Kevlar, so we get vests, bulletproof vests. and Mine's in my office right now.
They're
Let's
made
bring
out
it
of
down and
Kevlar.
show you. It's your regular body armor, and then with those, they come with a small little metal plate that goes on those.
Metal plate, right?
Okay, that's the only metal that I'm aware of. That's not AR-500 rated or anything like that. Those would be additional.
Would be a
plates.
level 5 instead of a level 3 or.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So those ones, so I have level 5 stuff, but I went out and bought it myself. I went through a company and I paid, more money than I should have, but it was important to me because it's my life.
But that's where I'm coming from, is there's a value in those plates.
Right. And
Now,
so-
I was originally thinking that it was the actual vest and plate. But if you're saying that all the deputies bought their own vests,
Yeah,
then
they
that
bought
is
those.
not a public tool,
Yeah.
but the plates would still be a public tool.
Yes, so the Kevlar itself is gonna have a shelf life on that. So basically you issue it out, the deputies wear that every day. They sweat in it, it breaks down over time. So one of the issues that has been raised by some people is, can we sell those? Because if we have a car seat, like a child's car seat, you can't sell it over a certain number of years age on that. So, and those specifically have a date on them. A car seat would have a specific date on them. The Kevlar has a specific date on that. Because if people rely on that for protection and we sell that to the public, the concern would be that there's liability that comes back on somebody. Also, if somebody that's convicted of a felony, they're not allowed to possess that stuff. So if the sheriff's office was to turn that over to the county and then the county sells that at auction, there is some concerns from a public relations standpoint if those vests were found with somebody who was convicted of a felony, just like a firearm. And so I know there's been what's that?
Different from a firearm.
But it's the same, it's not the same RCW, but it does cover that.
There's the same risk.
Sure.
Potential for being sued, but in a firearm, it says if you're selling a gun, you must do a background check.
Right.
And when you look at body armor, it doesn't say you must do a background check.
True.
It just says felons can't own it.
Right, or possess.
So there is a difference. Not the same as firearm.
I think the bottom line, at least for me, is that anything that's a public asset has to be disposed of.
Right.
That's it. It doesn't, I don't care if we're talking about body armor
Yeah.
or
Chairs.
cars, chairs,
Sure.
whatever.
And then
We have to be sure that is,
in the past, we've used those for training tools. So we did have a training incident yesterday with a bullet that ricocheted and struck an employee's finger. We're very lucky. So we have safety equipment and everything of that nature. And
this
so,
happened in the range.
Yes,
Or
it
on
did.
the range.
Yes. And it's it's kind of a freak incident, but we've investigated it. We have changed a couple of the ways that we do things just to make sure that we're more aware of our backstop. So at the range, for all of the posts that are up close, they're kind of in a V pattern. So if they take a bullet, they're designed to ricochet the bullet, deflect it off. But the ones at the back are an I-beam T, and when you shoot towards the back of the range, it's dead on. So if you're shooting rifle rounds, there's always potential for some.
Interesting. Were you guys in the shelter itself? You weren't out in?
No, they were out
in,
out towards the back because they have to move further back. Because if they're in the shelter, because they're doing angle shooting, there's always the potential that there's a risk they shoot outside of the range.
Were you guys doing placement shooting or run and gun or? what
It
were you
was
trying to do
it was something to do with rifles. So, but it was very minor.
Right, but it's still something that maybe if that's how you're using that range, in the future, we might want to weld some angle stuff onto the flat stuff.
That would be, so there is some wood pieces on that, and I looked at, as you know, obviously I went down there, I photographed the entire scene, I measured everything out. Where were people standing? Where did this happen? I looked at everything that I could. And I went back and I looked at those I-beams, and they have pieces of wood on the front of them, basically facing the range itself.
Keep them.
And I would encourage the commissioners to look at that, at how many people have hit those.
Yeah, wow.
It's not this is not an isolated incident.
It was an interesting design when I looked at it.
Right. So, so we did have a discussion about how old vests that are no longer useful may contribute to maybe used in something, because I know that there is a law enforcement section that there is.
Back to clarification, we're not talking about vests now. We're only talking about.
I think it's all part of the same conversation.
Well, the vests we don't know. The employees don't apparently.
When we talk about vests, we're talking about the entire thing, right? So yes, the carrier. So you've got the carrier, and you've got, you know, I'm interchanging the wording for it. So the carriers are separate. To me, the vest is everything else. Fair enough. So I've got a vest. I own the carrier. Well, not right now. The county just bought me a new one. But to me, the carrier is different than the vest itself, which would be the Kevlar, the small little steel plate, and then it would be the internal.
Well, with that description, it strengthens my statement. I could understand if the sheriff's department wanted to keep one for training.
Sure.
I don't know why you would need a stockpile of them. I think I can justify to the public that it's in the public's interest for the sheriff's department to be able to train.
Right.
But I do still believe the rest of them.
So we normally, firearms for us would be 4 times a year. Because of budget reasons, we've kind of cut that down a little bit. But some of the biggest liability on the county, the 2 biggest things is anytime we fire a gun, that's huge liability on what we do. The other one is obviously driving. We're not talking about driving right now. But firearms, what they say is for every bullet that's shot, calculate out, if there is a lawsuit, a cost of about $2 million a bullet. That was the figure that was given to me 4 or 5 years ago.
So tie that statement to the use of the vest.
Okay.
For training. Like I have no issue if there are, but again, it doesn't matter if it's vests or anything. If there are assets in the county assets that are in the sheriff's department and they have legitimate training purposes when they fulfilled their useful life.
Absolutely.
Then that's still a public use and you can use those. But it's also, it has to be justifiable to the scale of what you're doing. Like you don't get to keep every old vehicle when you're done with it.
Just to
For-
see how bullets will travel.
Well, I mean,
Right.
right, we do end up surplusing some of
Yes.
those. Eventually,
Yeah.
you do keep some, you know,
And
they
we have, I
cycle
believe it's
down
an old,
through and they get
yeah.
used for this, then they get used, then they go to search and rescue, and eventually we get rid of
Rid of
them.
them,
And
sure.
so I guess this is, walk me through the same process.
So
that
one of the things that we did have a discussion on yesterday after this incident with firearms instructors is I know that there is a plan to have a fire or law enforcement only range down there, a section down there that's going to be law enforcement only. But in the meantime, we're using a section that has those I-beams, things of that nature. So if we were to use some of the old bulletproof vests as kind of a backstop to catch those bullets, we don't have that risk of those I-beams ricocheting rounds back. So I don't know that makes that's the best argument, but that was, I'm willing to.
You probably weren't aiming at the I-beam when you
No,
did it.
no.
So even if you're aiming at the vest, you still hit the I-beam. We might need to buy us more ammo. So that didn't work for me.
Well, what my, you know, especially with yesterday, I looked at the entire situation and tried to figure out the safest for everything. But there have been other employees that have brought up about using the bulletproof vest as training.
And how many do you have?
I
Probably 6,
yeah.
maybe. Because they've been, over the last year and a half, as the new vests have been coming in, they've been used at the range for training.
So, and normally what we do is we try not to do one big massive purchase, you know, every,
Right,
say,
right.
5 years. We try to spread it out. So,
The other thing that they're useful for is if we've got reserve classes, they use them within the reserve classes until they've graduated
For what purpose do they use them in the reserve classes?
to.
so when you go to the range, our PPE or our personal protective equipment for the range is they have to wear a bulletproof vest. They have to wear eye protection. They have to wear hearing protection, and they have to wear eye protection.
Right.
Those are the main.
The reason I asked that question is because the answer to that question deflates they expire on a certain date.
Right.
Because it's kind of like a bottle of aspirin that expires in 2 years.
Well,
Sure.
You can still take it.
So
2
what-
years and 1 month.
Yeah, what we've kind of looked at is, you know, we can order a vest today. We're not gonna have it next week. We're not gonna have it a month from now. We're probably not gonna have it for 3 to 5 months, sometimes longer. And so at least we can give them some type of protection.
and during the classes for the reserve program, they get a feel for wearing it,
Right.
even though they're not.
I had some of my old vests that were in my patrol car. I had them all set up.
How many did you guys just order when they brought up this discussion? Wasn't it like 14 or something? Because they ordered them for the
Well,
jail.
Might be more. Yeah, we bought them for the jail.
They've never had them.
Yeah.
Well,
And then we had a
guys
couple of
that
us
bought
on the
their
road.
own, but yeah.
But that's their own, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I've gone to situations where it was somebody armed with a weapon and it's like, well, I've got my regular vest on. I'll throw a second one on. If I know I'm going into a situation where somebody's armed, I've taken some of those steps myself.
But
Okay, Commissioner Anderson, do you have anything you want to, any questions or anything you want to add? He's online.
Okay.
You're like, he's not there.
I'm like,
let's wait for the voice to come out.
He's typing something.
thought he
so
was
may not-
told.
He might be on the other meeting.
His other meeting, he's.
Oh,
legislators.
multitasking.
Yeah, he's multitasking.
I mean, the vests that we have, that we just purchased this last year, within the last year, those, when they cease being, in 5 years, when they cease being used, we can set
We'll
them
have
aside for the discussion, yeah. But it'll be a while before we have any additional vests.
What's the value to the county for selling those? Any ideas?
Depends what exactly is there.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of confused about the three parts you're talking about. Everything I've only ever seen is either a plate carrier,
Sure.
which isn't bulletproof and just carries plate,
Right.
or it's level 3 armor that is essentially a vest that has a slip-in slot for the plate.
If
You're talking about a third thing that's like a Kevlar pouch that holds the plate.
so,
That slips into so it's kind of a.
if you're able to stop by later, I have some different levels in my office. Most of them belong to me, but I'm willing to share with you so you have a visual of what I'm describing. And then the standard, carrier that has been used in the past, I have one at my house. I can go home and grab that, bring that back.
Well, you're saying the carrier itself was bought by employees anyway, so.
In the past, yes. This is the first time that we've.
Right, so
we've
if
added
we're
that.
not discussing surplusing employees' property.
No.
So
Yeah, we can't.
theoretically, we're only talking about whatever Kevlar piece you're talking about in the plates.
So Kevlar
The
piece,
plates are gonna vary in value. Is it just a front plate or is it front and black?
no, it's just front.
Average plate, $100.
The metal ones I could buy new for less than that. I think new, just for the metal one. I'd have to look online. I haven't bought one. in a long time.
I think the important thing is that any public asset remains in the benefit of the public.
Right.
And that there isn't any, and again, I'm trying to read between the lines.
Right.
Because I don't think there's a big issue as far as the dollars.
Right.
It's like when this is a county iPad and I use it for county purposes and that's.
Yeah. The reason
I
for my
don't take it
question-
and videotape my kids, recital or
Right.
So if
whatever.
the screen was broken and it had no cash value, then you throw it in the garbage.
Right,
If it's
right.
just kind of old and you can make $30 for it, you put it in the auction.
You put it in the auction and they'll get me a new one and this one will I don't know what happened to my last one. I assume they
recycled
They recycled them.
Some other department probably got it.
I was fine with my old one.
Yeah.
We could
I
have
miss
a place
my old
for your
one.
steel plates right under that.
Right. Well, the reason for my question
Buy a box.
is, if the county's gonna get, say $80 for something that, we have a different item that we could buy for $100 that would do the same thing out of the range, from maybe catching the bullets or something like that.
Right.
I'm kind of looking at that going, well, wait a minute, if we're gonna get $80 from this, then spend $100 for that. That's why I was curious if there was a dollar amount.
No.
Compared to other things that we could use those for.
I'm just waiting on a board decision essentially.
Well, I think there isn't the decision is always the decision, which is any public asset has to be disposed of. Unless it has some legitimate public purpose. That's the standing I assume it's likely the law, there's an RCW.
Sure.
We can't gift public assets. We can't do anything. So
And we don't.
we cannot throw anything of value away either.
Right.
And those vests do not get thrown away. I know that.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be turned into the firearms guys, and then they use them for training purposes.
So I guess what are you looking for?
I would say I would like to know whether they're going to be turned into surplus or not.
Okay.
The sheriff's department would have to surplus them.
So first we would need to take an inventory of actually what we have.
Right.
That has not already been used as firearms practice.
Right.
And
Right.
then
At that point, then if so I would say anything that is not
Right.
you know, it's the department has the option of any of your stuff as far as whether you're gonna surplus it or not. If you still have a use for, you know, it's then, but if there are stuff that is excess to that, then it
Mhm.
needs to be surplus, just
Right.
like anything else.
But-
I have less concern. I mean, we did ask the prosecutor as far as on the question about the, you know, can you, because initially there was a, you know, we thought there may be some prohibition on that you can't surplus body armor. That's not true. You can. There is the question about you can't, you can't sell it to a felon and that would be, you know, at the time, when it's being surplus, we'd have to be sure of that. There's not really any more liability after that than there would be from anybody else, as far as if it then gets,
Right, and we're not
if it
gonna
ends
stop
up
you
in
from
a felon's
playing it.
hands, that's probably, it shouldn't have, but that means
Right.
somebody, it broke down at some point, didn't do what they were supposed to do, if it does.
Sure.
So,
So I guess that would make it up to the sheriff's discretion on whether he's going to surplus them.
I mean, it means it stays on the inventory.
Yeah.
If it does.
So question on that. 'Cause some of that
Now,
stuff I did
understanding,
too.
let's just cut to the chase.
Yep.
Can we? Is that,
Please do.
please do, is that I think the concern, and again, I'm reading between the lines, is that like any other public asset, that has to be used for, like, if you're using it for training purposes, great, there's nothing. If it ends up in somebody's home and they're using it on the weekends or they're doing something and then it just sort of falls off, because if it's on the list, it's on the list and that has to be accounted for.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, 5 went in, 5 have to come out or have to have been, they've been transferred to the gun range and they're being used for training purposes and they are physically exist there, that's what they're doing. I don't think there's any issue with that. It's any,
Needs
so
to be
that's
accounted for.
the bottom line.
Well,
Just so that we can, I mean, there's
Value to it, but
Right.
again, it's gonna come down to the department on how they want
Right.
If they think there's a value or not a value, and I won't interfere with their job, and I will just sit here and goodbye.
Every new vest that was handed out, I received back the old vest. So
Okay.
nobody is sitting at home. If that is the worry, no one is sitting at home with their new vest and their old vest.
That isn't necessarily my worry to that extent. My worry is that there's dollars on the table.
Right.
And I think people that work in government too long, this is not going to be a politically correct statement, have less worry about spending public dollars than people that are new to government. So I'm trying to account for public dollars, every last penny, as I rub them together.
I watch every penny very carefully and the assets and the equipment.
Okay.
To clarify all the different parts of the vest, that offer's still available if you guys are curious about the specifics.
I might stop just to kind of see what you're talking about, because
And
plate carrier stuff does not have an inner.
I live in town, so I will go grab the inner vest that I was describing. And be
The
able
inner
to
vest
show you.
is the question mark, because I have.
And those things,
Full military wraparound, level 3 all the way around, plus plate front and back, and then just the standard over the top plate carrier with just a plate in the front and back.
I've got several
Generally
different.
wears it on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock.
But have expired expiration dates on
Right.
it. But if needed, I think they would work just fine, especially that steel, it don't expire.
Yeah. Ceramic is supposed to be one of the best.
Did you get ceramic in the new stuff, or?
No, I bought my own. Like I said,
Well,
it's-
in the
No, in our
14 or
5,
whatever,
our new ones we got.
14 or whatever that were $2,000.
But yeah,
That's
those are, you have to roll it. And
That's Kevlar.
it's Kevlar. And
They don't
it's-
have plates involved?
I think they have a,
We're gonna get stop plates,
yeah, so
which
it's
I think is what
different.
I
you're,
thought there was plates, it's just a matter whether they're steel or.
When you come
carbon.
down, I'll show you what we got. I'll show you what
Yeah, I
we've
can't
gotten
afford
in the
I
past,
can't afford
and I'll show you what, well, I mean, it's expensive, but
Yes, it
it's
is.
my life, so
that. Right, and you have to lug it around all day, so poundage is important.
it is heavy.
And so other equipment that we have, our tasers and that type of stuff, those are all leased, so
Right.
those don't
Go
get,
back.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I asked with the guns, and they get traded in, so there's
Yes.
no value there.
yeah.
So no, that's kind of what it is to me, is the value back to the taxpayers.
Just, you know, we are very
We're going
cautious
there,
about ordering and buying stuff, and we've surplus when we haven't had, when it's broken,
Hey, you probably got vehicles you got to surplus, and you got to get these people the title.
We've been working on that.
Apparently the ones
Not
that
changing the subject at all.
apparently the ones that don't have keys, we're just gonna say without keys and make it.
And
I think we're down
or
to
best
one.
offer.
Yeah, we're down
Is
to
it, is
one.
it one that we don't have
We have
keys?
no
Two.
When I talked to you, Nary.
How do we have
Yeah.
vehicles with no keys?
They've been
Um,
that long, probably.
So we had somebody that was in charge of vehicles who doesn't work for our agency
Back in
anymore. It
18,
hasn't.
and it sat there in a box and
Yeah.
then just different transitioning.
We've done, I mean, we've done everything we can. We went and got new titles for them. But it's literally the keys, and then it's $300 per vehicle to get keys made for it. On a vehicle, it's not even worth probably much more than that. So it's like, well, what does the county want to? You know, we want to be smart.
Surplus yearly before we lose the keys.
I am totally down with that. So, but obviously, in 2018, I was the guy running around writing tickets, so.
See,
I
so
wasn't the
this is
decision
just
maker.
you guys, I've been pushing to get the brass at the range on the surplus list. I'm not picking on you. I'm just cheap.
No,
Okay, I'm done.
I'm cheap too, so
Okay.
I'm down with that.
So that closes the ballistic body armor conversation.
I believe case closed.
And then what was the other conversation?
Well, I think there's a meeting at, is it 2:45 or is it being moved up
Yeah,
for the,
for the resentencing.
Oh, that's
We
already.
already delegated.
You already did,
Yeah, we
okay.
delegated that, so that's where it gets purview of the sheriff's department from now on.
So what our,
Oh, you weren't
Yeah,
here
the-
for that.
no, Lee
Body
reached
armor
out.
division. It's gonna
Yeah,
handle
Lee reached out
that.
and asked if we wanted to be part of that conversation.
Renee will
And
be the manager. of
She'll be
that.
the
Okay.
manager of that.
And we want to be part of that conversation because, you know, what our concern is that there's all this stuff that needs to be pulled from records. We're gonna have to have record people staying late. They're hourly employees, and so obviously if there is.
If they are, then that is reimbursable under the grant.
Yeah, and that's, we just want to be part of that conversation, so.
Because at this point, both the clerk and the Superior Court, Mary Jo have indicated their plan is that they will not, they don't anticipate extraordinary time like that will be, and so they won't be billing the grant for those. But if there is, if there's any, that is an eligible expense for, in fact, part of the grant is, if I read it correctly, there's
For that, yeah.
there's some of it is set specifically for
Yeah.
administrative costs for admitting to administering it. So,
And
yeah, there is that.
I would assume that it's mostly looking at past charges and what they can use as far as their sentencing guidelines. So hopefully that will leave our records department out of all that stuff. That we won't need to be part of that.
I do hope, now you're kind of scaring me, because I do think there's part of that that's set aside for wages, that if we're not billing, we could lose out on.
Oh, no, we will.
We need to be keeping track of our.
So we shouldn't have anything, if we have something that legitimately that is the expense, it needs to get billed against
Right.
that.
Yes.
So that it is, because the money just goes away. Because it's not like it's gonna get used to make restitution. It just goes away. And,
Yeah, no sense making the taxpayer pay for that.
no,
Right.
well, they've already, that's where it came from.
Oh, I
They've
know,
already
that's a
paid.
Seattle taxpayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did fill our criminal record specialist position and they start tomorrow.
Oh.
We're pretty excited on that.
Good. All right.
Cool. Well, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your time.
Yep.
Thank you, people.
What?
I said, thank you, peoples.
You're welcome. Again, stop by if you get
I
a
probably
chance.
will.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Just because I'm curious now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just try to
I might be missing out on something. We bored the treasurer out of it too.
I know, well, he's gotta come back to give the finance committee update, so. Which was Friday, and I was here again yesterday, but that was the steering committee for the financial software.
Oh,
Just, again, all we're trying to do is, what are we doing as far as launching the process?
I have, so I've been here 9 months and I still can't get it.
You're up, sir. We're running ahead, so.
Can't believe we're running ahead.
I know.
Discussion.
With all this discussion.
Putting Lee over here to sleep.
Okay,
More than you ever wanted to know about body armor, Kevlar. And
Yeah.
this is the same sheet.
Well, I hope I was
not.
not, I mean, I was trying to, I mean, I know you're definitely concerned about the dollars. And that
This
was
was part of my
absolutely.
budget meeting and
I
I've handed it out 12 times.
Sometimes it's like,
One another.
people don't want to give up their stuff.
No, they don't.
I brought them just because I'm like content to leave.
I will be happy on my last day, whenever that is, I will hand off my iPad, my county phone, surplus and all. Yeah, but yeah, what, no, that goes with the job. So it's who's ever sitting here, that's
It
the,
remains county property.
whoever, yeah, remains county, it all remains county property.
It's nice to see you use some new ones.
Each one of you guys will have a chance to use the gavel.
Yes,
That's not true. We
everybody
have
gets
to
a
accept
chance
the
at the
position.
gavel.
I might just sit over here my whole time.
They might use me on you too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, we've never had it where you, nope, not gonna do it.
When he goes on vacation.
Yeah.
No, because that's true. They're probably gonna love sitting up there with me and they're just gonna sit back here and watch.
Go ahead.
Watch the turmoil.
Yeah, watch
I'm gonna zoom in for the
Yeah,
next.
manage,
How about it?
manage that. As far as, thank you, Mr. Treasurer.
No, you're good, you're good. So a lot of the things that we discussed at the finance committee meeting have been discussed throughout the day today. But I'm gonna hit some of the pieces that haven't. For example, we talked for quite a bit about the 21st and having the budget meetings, and Jen covered that in her piece. We did have a discussion follow up to the Blake decision, and that's been covered. I don't think we need to, so I wasn't going to go through anything else that you guys have already kind of went through. But one of the things that we did spend quite a bit of time on was the debt schedule. That was from my Thursday budget meeting. We had a discussion. We put it on the agenda at the finance committee meeting. And I know that we were wanting to have some additional discussion about that. And so this was the sheet that I handed out. You probably already have a copy of it. I included 2021, but it's basically the debt payments for 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025. And what we're seeing and where things go. 2024 is when we make the last payment on the Pioneer Building. And 2023 is when we make the last payment on the SRF, or the State Revolving Fund for the Dallasport Wastewater. And this year in 2021, we made the last payment on the Public Works Trust Fund loan for the Dallasport Wastewater Facility. So currently,
there was two different ones for Dallasport.
there was two different,
there's a
Public
little-
Works Trust Fund, which is not even in existence anymore. They've taken that money
They've-
away, but which was really a
Pillaged
good.
that to nothing.
It was really a good program to do things like this, but Public Works Trust Fund and then the State Revolving Fund. I think might both be gone now. I don't know if there's SRF, but yeah, there was two of them. One of them was smaller than the other. And the State Revolving was 0% interest. And so in 2022, we will be making the following $1.4 million or $1.5 million debt payments, which is the State Revolving for 58, the 192 for the 2005 GO bond, which is the Pioneer Center general obligation. That's what GO stands for. And the 01381-1 for the local program, which is the new administration building of 1.2 million, 1.27. So anyway, there was some questions at the meeting and we had this discussion. Basically, if you go to 2023, there is only 29,461 of the State Revolving Fund that's remaining. We have $58,000 reserved because we had to reserve the final payment per the loan agreement for the SRF or the bond or whatever type. I think it's a loan agreement. So really that would only cost us $29,000 to pay that back and, you know, we would actually have some, and close that out and be done with it. And then the state or the.
Before we move on from that,
Yes, sir.
just because I think it's important. Our ability to make a decision to divest ourselves of the wastewater plant can't happen until there's no loan left on it.
Right.
And which the big one's gone. So we basically, if we want to be able to have a conversation, it's gonna cost us $29,461 to do that. Is that accurate?
That's what, yep.
Now, a question I have is, where would this money then come from? Would paying off this or paying off the Pioneer Center be able to be COVID funds used for such?
Well, let's go, okay, let's get a little bit, that's a great question. So then the other question that we discussed at the finance committee was the 2005 GO bond. Because really, at the end of the day, if we were to advance the 23 and the 24 payment, that would cost us about $360,000 additional. That's the principal that's there.
You notice the interest rate next to those that we're paying?
Yes, and yeah, we're looking at.
And so, you know, we would.
$5,000 in interest, already looked at.
And then we would be able to save some of those dollars and we probably save not quite the 46,000 because that's for the 3 years that are on there, but we would have some interest savings with that when you net that together with the 29. So we did not go down. Our thought was there was some questions about where the dollars could come from. The dollars can come from 125. I mean, the county has the ability to say, we're going to increase the expenses in 125 to pay this off. There would be no loan requirement. There would be that would be this one-time thing. We could make an agreement that we would put some money back into there to cover it over a 2 or 3 year period or however, but I mean, we wouldn't have to make it a formal loan. I don't think that would have to happen.
The public would be fine with that because we're saving the interest money.
Saving the interest money, and we're also making it very transparent to the public because then every year after 2022 would look like 2025. There would be one line item on there and it would be very simple and easy it would be very, very easy. Not that it's not transparent now, but it just would be one loan, boom, that's it. You know, the county traditionally, looking back in the history, you know, I think this building was built in the 50s, I think we decided, or the 40s.
This building?
Yeah.
In 1941.
41. The next building we built was when we did the Pioneer building, which needed to be done in 2005.
Right.
And then now we're, you know, this building here at 2021. So, I mean, I think the county is going to, you know, waiting 60 years might not have been the best and trying to kind of do that for the first piece. So anyway, so, you know, these are kind of where we're standing. So we could take the money from 125. I do think that the bottom line in the meeting that we had in the finance committee was our recommendation is we think it would be a really good idea to put these into the 2022 budget, pull the money from 125. I think you bring up, Commissioner Christopher, the kind of the piece is where we had some discussion about it coming from the $09 potentially of the COVID funds would be another bucket. There's multiple buckets in 125. That's the question, or, you know, whether it just comes from so those were some of the areas that we were going to, and again, since Thursday and with Friday, I haven't really had a chance to dive into whether we've looked at some RCWs about the 09 money to see if that would be a possibility. We would again have to apply for that, I think, and it would have to be approved by a group. But those are things that we kind of tossed out in discussing it. But I think that the bottom line discussion that we had was we thought that this would be a prudent idea for the county to advance these and take care of these other debts in the 2022 budget.
What is the second COVID dollar amount? Is it going to be 2.12 or?
Yes, it would be 2.12, but I'm 95% certain that ARP funds cannot pay off debt.
Right, it says right in there, you can't use ARP funds for debt or bond payments.
Right.
Which I guess are debt. Bond payment is debt.
That answers the COVID fund question and puts it back in 125.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I mean, if that's what it is, I mean, that's a separate argument because that same, at least phase 2 of the COVID funds is my argument for public works, by the way. But anyway, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the $09 in my understanding of what the 09 should be used for. And I wouldn't say this qualifies, but to others it might. So I would just use standard.
As just a point in reading, I had not really read up much on the $09, but it did specifically have a piece in there about debt before 2004. This debt started in 2005. So I know in that piece, that was the one part, but I think it's there, but yeah, in some of the other pieces. So, but yes, because I haven't really read, she had done some research and passed it on to me and I read some additional pieces of it. But anyway, those were
I think there's really two pieces to that. One is just do we think it's a good idea to pay the debt off early and clean all that up in 22 on everything? And then yes or no. And then, I mean, because one of it, the little one, it's 0% interest, so it's not costing us anything.
It's
the other one is the 4
costing us though, because the whole time we own it, something to break.
Exactly.
That, and we also believe that it takes us a lot of time to work through that particular item. I mean, we spend a lot of time with our annual report working around the Dalport water facility.
Yeah, we're spending a lot of money.
There's a lot of money being spent. It's just not, you can't.
That's an absolute no-brainer.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned. Now, the Pioneer Center, that's a discussion, but I still think it should.
I mean, that we're paying 4.35% interest on that loan. That's a pretty high interest rate. In today, it was a great interest rate at the time. I'm sure they thought they were getting a smoking deal, and now it's like, good Lord, that's high. So there's a incentive, but definitely the wastewater plant, the real thing for me is it advances us to be able to start, like, what are we doing with this? We can't even do that.
And we did have an additional discussion to that of possibly putting it into a Q1 payment so that we could pay that in January, February, March, depending on how the cash flows worked, if we had to wait for the first land.
Well, I said, if we can't find $29,000 in January 1, we got some big.
But I'm just mean,
Mr. Treasurer.
Sell property in Belize.
Yes, right, but
take it out of my Belize property.
But what I'm saying is we can advance that so that it would happen earlier in the year, so we would have the majority of the year to be able to work on any plans that the board would come up with.
Hopefully get rid of it by the end of the year. Yeah, no, yes. I'm a yes on both.
Okay. So I will work on those, and I will work on modifying the budget that I presented. And I will work with Jen and we'll get it updated in there and so on and so forth. But I think we all feel that this is a good thing, and it would simplify some stuff and provide us some flexibility.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson, you were nodding your head, so. Good, okay, thumbs up.
Okay, perfect.
He wants me rubbing the pennies together.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I will work on that. And you're saying, no, you're against, no, don't look into the 09 any further.
I don't like the 09 idea. I don't know. I look at 09 as the way I read it. Make me pull it out again. I know, I carry it around to remind myself. To carry out programs, including but not limited to program financed in whole or in part by federal agencies, to rebuild and revitalize blighted areas. I don't look at the Pioneer Center as a blighted area. So others can vote for that. I would have to be a no because I don't think it's a blighted area. Unless you want to change the resolution.
Okay, you keep bringing that up, but I want to know where the reference to that is.
Well, I'm just reading your. Well, I was going to say it's your document, but it isn't your document. It might not have been your document. I have to look at the date on it. 95.
Yeah, so that was at the.
It might have been.
Is that in the resolution?
This is.
I suspect it was
11095, which makes the Klickitat County Public Economic Development Authority and how to spend the $09. It's old, it's outdated.
So it's
No, that's fine. I have been looking at the RCW.
Yeah, I was
not
gonna
looking
say,
at the
I keep
resolution.
looking at the language out of the
I mean, it would be a good
RCW,
idea.
and it has a much. broader definition.
Right, and it could be
we
used
could-
for wastewater treatment plants and things like that, but it still comes back to.
But
to help
Dallasport,
the
but
poor and infirmed and blighted
sure,
areas,
sure,
you know.
but then we are approving funding in projects all the time that don't meet that definition.
Well, in,
So then why are we doing that?
yes, and well, we
No, why are you, I mean, we
did,
we voted on last Tuesday to fund wastewater improvements at Goldendale. Is that a blighted area?
Is Goldendale a poor and improved blighted?
No,
area?
no, blighted has a legal definition to it. So is it the wastewater plant? I mean, I'm not arguing, I guess I am arguing. I'd say you can use the term when it suits you, but it's
No.
like blighted. A wastewater plant in Dallasport wasn't a blighted community, and we used it, we built a water system in Bickleton. Bickleton's not a blighted community. We funded a port building in Dallasport. That wasn't a blighted community, so. But so you're saying everybody made a mistake from 95
No,
to today
just
until
saying some
you
people
got
might
here?
have a different opinion than I do.
I think that language probably in 1995 was in the original legislation that authorized 09 period. It's like, there's a reason it's called Distressed Counties Fund, is that distressed, I guess, is a better term for blighted than blighted.
Right.
And so we still qualify,
So,
it can only be used in a community, in a county that qualifies as a distressed county,
Right.
which we do, which means we have areas of blight. And the idea is
Or
that you,
distress.
or distress,
In
and that we
areas
would,
of distress, I would be a good vote for yes.
okay,
In areas that aren't distressed, I would be in favor of.
all right. Okay. Okay, good to understand your point of view.
So I will work on the debt
No, I
piece
just abstained.
on the 201. We did cancel the meeting on November 12th for scheduling conflict because there was gonna be two of us that were not going to be the finance committee meeting for November 12th, sorry. And in my brain, I will get back with Dave and Brenda because I was like, oh, we'll just have the following week meeting, but that Friday is Thanksgiving, so we'll have to probably have to deal with that one.
I'm gonna be a hard pass.
I didn't figure you probably wanna, watch some football or something. Follow up on the Blake decision, which I think you guys have had that discussion.
Yes, Renee has graciously
Yes, I saw that. She
agreed to her.
Yes. And there was nothing new reported on the Rescue America, and the next meeting is going to be 10/22. So that was it from the finance. As far as in the treasurer's office, I really don't have anything other to add, updated from past reports for today. So that was really mostly just covering the finance committee. I didn't have anything additionally.
Yes.
Does the board have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's pretty much my main.
Mr. Anderson, any questions for the treasurer?
None here.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I will move us now to elected officials report. Or, prosecuting attorney. This is, I don't know, if Mr. Cannell is on one. He is.
I don't have anything, gentlemen.
Okay. Any questions for the prosecuting attorney?
No, nothing will do here.
Do we have an extradition treaty with Belize or Borneo?
I don't know.
Never mind. I'll take my answer off channel.
Strike that from the. record.
Strike that, I'm sorry. I'm still,
An official county request.
no, that's not an official county request. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm being
So
facetious.
moved.
So you can make the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting until Thursdays. What time do we start?
9
9 o'clock budget.
A second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to second to adjourn the regular meeting until 9 AM on Thursday, October 14th. Just a note, Commissioner Christopher is involved in union negotiations tomorrow, and I am in the afternoon tomorrow too, so. Separately, not together.
Good luck.
Yes, good luck. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned. Thanks, folks, who joined us online. And Ms. Bosque, I saw you were still there. I will try to get you an answer the next day or two. I'm gonna go talk to Mochi about that.